Chapter 709. Mu Qinghan was dressed in purple battle clothes. She was graceful and luxurious. Her beautiful hair was tied up high, and the golden ornament between her hair trembled. Her phoenix eyes were slanted, and there was a smile on her snow-white face. She was a saint from the spirit race, and was from the same generation as Yao Yao. She had fought Yao Yao on the heavenly vine and was almost killed. Yao Yao had suppressed her to the point of despair. But after so many years, she had already become a saint. She was incomparably hostile toward Yao Yao and the Earth's lineage. That was why the spirit race was very active in this operation. Naturally, there won't be any accidents. After this battle, this uncivilized planet will become the hunting ground for our descendants. A powerhouse from the deity race nodded. Although he was easygoing, his strength was unfathomable. Additionally, he came from one of the strongest races in the universe, so he had a certain dignity. Yes, this planet was once glorious. It was extremely powerful in ancient times. Now that it has recovered once again, it's just in time to help our descendants. From now on, this will be a place of refinement. Another saint spoke. There were saints from the Shilin clan, Damong Pure Land, and the Netherworld race here. The group of people with shocking strength stood in space above the earth and looked down. As for the large group of golden Arhut level evolvers, although they were also very powerful, they couldn't get a word in. They all stood quietly in the distance. The composition of golden Arhut level evolvers was complicated. Some came from powerful ancient sects, some from imperial dynasties, and some were space pirates and interstellar explorers. Now it was finally time to divide up the benefits. Everyone's eyes were sparkling with brilliance. It's not like this. The informant trembled and gasped for breath. He thought he had said it clearly enough, but in the end he realized that even the saints had misunderstood him. At the same time, he was terrified. After the truth was revealed, the saints wouldn't be able to keep their faces. Would they slap him until he exploded and turned him into a pool of blood? At this moment, not only was his body trembling, but even his soul was throbbing. He was almost paralyzed there. What's going on? A saint spoke and frowned at him. He had a bad feeling because the informant's eyes were filled with fear and even despair. Reporting to the saints, something big has happened on the planet below. This person's body trembled, and a layer of white sweat appeared on his body. He braced himself and said, "The Allied forces have been completely annihilated." For a moment, the surroundings were silent. Everyone stopped talking, and even their heartbeat stopped. One powerful evolver after another froze in place, and there was absolute silence. It was too quiet. There was a deathly silence in outer space. Everyone was petrified and motionless. The female sage of the spirit race, Mu Qinghan, originally had a warm smile on her face. But now, her face instantly stiffened. Her elegant temperament vanished, replaced by a cold aura. Her pupils contracted, and her bright red lips gradually turned purple. Her attitude of having everything under control disappeared in an instant, and all that was left was a murderous aura. At the same time, she felt humiliated in her heart, and even a sense of shame and resentment. Everything she had said was within her expectations, and it was actually reflected in this way. At this moment, she felt as if she had been slapped on the face, a burning pain. The Almighty of the deity race was also in a daze at this moment. His figure was completely fixed in place like a clay sculpture. The saints of the Damong Pure Land, the machine race, the Shilin clan, the Great Qi dynasty, and the Netherworld race were all stunned. Just now, they were already discussing how to divide the benefits of Earth and how to equally divide those ruins and famous mountains and rivers. But now, it was as if everyone had been slapped in the face. Just now, they were all calm and certain that they would achieve a great victory in this battle. They would annihilate all the thorns on Earth who dared to go against the will of the various races in the Starry Sea. From then on, this planet would become a colony. Who would have thought that it would actually be such an outcome? It was indeed a complete annihilation, but it wasn't the aboriginals of this savage planet who were destroyed. Instead, it was those thorns who went against the heavens and annihilated the allied forces of various races. "Impossible," cried a golden Arhut cosmic pirate. He was extremely fierce, and a ruthless glint flickered in his eyes. That was because his own grandson had led a group of pirates into Earth. He couldn't accept this outcome. Some interstellar explorers were also panting heavily. How could it be such an outcome? Nearly 10,000 evolvers attacked, and a great army pressed down on the border. Even if everyone on this planet resisted together, it wouldn't be enough. How could they be defeated and completely annihilated? The space outside of Earth was in an uproar. Even the powerful beings at the Golden Arhut level were agitated. They questioned the outcome of this battle and simply couldn't believe it. Before this, they had thought of all kinds of possibilities. Perhaps some of those evolvers on Earth had escaped, and they might not necessarily be completely annihilated. However, they had never thought that the allied forces of various races would be defeated and completely annihilated. "Shut up," said a quasi-saint. He maintained order on behalf of the powerhouses present and manifested his dignity. At this moment, the saints of various races had sunken expressions. In a flash, an extremely terrifying aura pervaded the air. Everyone in the vicinity quieted down and shivered. After the saints were enraged, the space outside of Earth trembled and a rumbling sound erupted. All kinds of vague order runes appeared and suppressed the entire world. Thump! A large number of people knelt down, from the cosmic pirates to some dark hunters. As long as they hadn't reached the quasi-saint level, their bodies were weak and trembling under the holy might. They were boundlessly terrified. In a split second, this news spread to the starry sea and was reported on by some platforms. Very soon, the outcome of this battle seemed to have grown wings and flew to all parts of the universe. Evolvers on many vital planets heard it, and even more detailed information was sent to the desks of many powerful characters. Over 9,000 evolvers and close to 100 evolutionary sects had actually suffered a crushing defeat and were swallowed up by the natives of Earth, who were thought to have declined. Not a single person had escaped. Only a portion of the spies hadn't entered Eternal Island at that time. They saw this scene from a distance in the dense fog of the Eastern Sea. It made their bodies go cold and their blood almost solidified. The great demon king Chu Feng had reappeared on Earth. All of this had been done by him. The news spread like a thunderclap, causing the ears of evolvers from various races to ring. Recently, there were rumors that Chu Feng had left Earth and entered the Starry Sea. There were even rumors that he was the one who had caused the incident in the Shilin clan's universe's black prison. In the end, he had returned to Earth and wiped out the heroes. Demon King Chu Feng, I'm going to peel off your scalp, pour in mermaid fat, and light you up as a sky lantern. Someone was screaming and howling with disheveled hair. Trash. Close to 10,000 troops couldn't even take down a group of little demons. Moreover, they were scared witless by a single demon King Chu. The whole army was defeated. What face do they have? Let them all die. Sir, almost all of them have died. Almost no one survived. Is my grandson also dead? I'm in so much pain. I'm going to kill Chu Feng and those natives. The starry skies were in chaos because the impact of this matter was too great. Too many sects were involved, and the leaders were the favorites of some of the elders of various races. In addition, even if they weren't saint children, they were the direct descendants of space pirates and the children of explorers. When had they ever suffered such a great loss? Some old demons were going crazy. As for the deity race, Shilin clan, Damung Pure Land, and the others, it was as though a storm was coming. The Een energy within their clans was heavy, and the atmosphere was almost suffocating. They couldn't accept this kind of battle situation. One had to know that this time was different from the past. They had mustered a large force and called on all races to work together to conquer the savage planets. In the end, the Allied forces were completely annihilated. This made their faces burn with pain. This slap to the face was too resounding. They knew that many people were watching them make a fool of themselves. The 10 greats weren't that harmonious. The deity race and the netherworld race had suffered a terrible setback this time. They clearly realized that they had been seriously challenged. Their own power and influence might decline. They had suffered a great loss at Chu Feng's hands more than once. Their divine sons had been killed earlier, and today they had suffered such a great defeat. Over 9,000 of them had been wiped out by one person with a domain. This made their hearts ache to the extreme, and they wanted to go crazy with hatred. The latest report from the quasi-saint race's permanent correspondent on Earth, enchantment. The Allied forces have been routed, and the halberd has been broken at Mount Eternal. The Earth evolver named Chu Feng has swept everyone with a domain. The latest news from the Buddhist race. The saints of the Allied forces in outer space are furious, causing many golden body evolvers to be affected. Some of them have fallen. News from the Black Blood Arena's live broadcast platform. The myriad star physique, the innocuous divine physique, and the origin magnetic physique have been captured alive by Chu Feng. The three great physiques have all been defeated by one person. The universe's starry skies were completely boiling. The news of this battle couldn't be covered up even if they wanted to. That was because the deity race and the netherworld race weren't the only ones paying attention to this battle. Neutral evolutionary sects were also reporting in succession. In particular, the quasi-saint race and the Buddhist race were actually reporting the details of this battle. The Origin Beast platform and the Black Blood Arena were peeling the beans in detail. All sorts of details were revealed. Perilous waves rose and fell between all the major galaxies. Countless evolvers were dumbstruck. Those who understood the details were speechless for a long time before clamoring again in the end. By now, Demon King Chu's savagery could be said to be known by everyone. Such a great commotion shocked everyone's jaws off. At the same time, many people felt their bodies go cold. In just half a day, a large ship sailed out of the misty region in the ocean outside of Mount Eternal. Chu Feng and a group of great demons were sitting on it. They had actually appeared in such an ostentatious manner and made a speech. They calmly faced all the evolvers in the starry skies, and especially allowed the intelligence collectors stationed on Earth to interview them. Chu Feng expressed that he was responsible for this matter. Motherf, Asterisk Kerr, the related enemies all wanted to beat him to death after hearing this. He still dared to come out and act like a big-tailed wolf after causing such a terrifying incident. It was simply too shameful and hateful. I'm here with a heavy heart to mourn the victims. Chu Feng's tone was solemn. He was actually giving a speech, and everyone's jaws dropped. Many people want to say, "What the hell are you grieving for? Weren't you the one who killed them all?" One must know how to cherish life. How can one disregard one's own life and abandon it at will? Chu Feng said solemnly. He didn't have stage fright when facing the camera and was very calm. He said in a sincere and earnest manner, "You only have one life. You can't start over again. I advise everyone to take this as a warning." The people from all races were thrown into disorder. What was this demon talking about? What was he trying to do by putting on such a posture here? Was he mourning the dead and warning the future generations? However, they soon discovered that this demon wasn't doing it out of good intentions. His speech changed very quickly. Chu Feng said, "We're here in deep remembrance. The dead are gone, and the living should take this as a warning. Everyone, please cherish this. You should strive to improve yourself in life and have self-respect. Don't come here to deliver food because you're too weak." He was seriously slapping them in the face. This kind of serious attitude and saying such words made the powerhouses from the outer realms grind their teeth in hatred. They really wanted to slap him to death. All right, the mourning is over. Let's return to the main topic. I'll be holding a charity banquet and auction 3 days from now. Of course, considering that everyone is separated by many galaxies and the journey is long, 90% of people can't make it here. Therefore, everyone can also use the interstellar network to bid. The proceeds from the auction will be used to help the native evolvers of Mount Eternal. Therefore, I hope everyone will come and support Earth when the time comes. Yes, if the deity race, Shilin clan, Damung Pure Land, Netherworld race, and so on need special invitations, I can quickly refine a few for you. Don't worry, this kind of golden invitation won't be voided as easily as the one from Dammering Pure Land. I solemnly promise that it will be effective for life. My auction welcomes you to bid and purchase at any time. I guarantee that it will be closely related to you. These words made the evolvers from all races dumbfounded. They all knew that he was definitely going to do something big. As for the deity race, Dammering Pure Land, Shilling Clan, and so on, each and every one of them felt as if their faces had been slapped swollen. They were all shocked and angry at the same time. All right, I forgot to introduce the auction items this time. Apart from our store's specialty products, saint children and saintesses, there are also all kinds of secret treasures piled up like mountains. In addition, we have another auction item for the finale. We're currently trying to strip out the rare bloodlines of the Myriad Star Physique, Innocuous Divine Physique, and Origin Magnetic Sacred Physique. If we succeed, we'll definitely sell it. Many people in the starry skies were shocked. The bloodlines of the three great invincible physiques were going to be sold, yet he could strip them out. Not to mention ordinary evolvers, even some powerhouses and the ancestors of the most top-notch orthodoxies couldn't sit still. They were in an uproar. Chapter 710. Who knew how many evolvers were discussing among the major galaxies? The commotion on Earth was shocking and had drawn the attention of the world. Especially this time, there was a possibility of selling the bloodline of divine and saint physiques. This was simply earth-shattering and made the ancient experts of the major orthodoxies unable to sit still. This demon, he's starting to sell people again, someone sighed. Everyone was speechless. The word again, in such words, really made people's minds run wild. But this was indeed the truth. The deity race's close allies stood out and rebuked Chu Feng. This demon is going against the grain. Humans and gods are indignant, and the heavens cannot tolerate it. We should suppress him together. Many people laughed at him in front of his face. Then, they directly inquired about Chu Feng on Earth behind his back. They wanted to ask if he could really separate the divine and saint physique's unrivaled bloodline. If he could transplant the source, they would bid for it with their lives on the line. For a moment, the starry skies were in chaos. The most powerful evolvers and the people in charge of the major orthodoxies couldn't sit still because the level involved was extremely high. Human traffickers, bandits, and terrifying villains. This is an undisguised kidnapping, extortion, and extortion. It's too despicable and shameless. The parties involved were all very anxious. They accused Chu Feng of all kinds of crimes, saying that he was notorious for his misdeeds, hypocritical, and cunning. His crimes were too numerous to be listed. Someone advised, "Old friend, calm down. Hurry up and prepare the ransom. Save your granddaughter first, and then we'll talk. Yes, prepare all kinds of scriptures and great medicines. I reckon the six-path reincarnation pill and deity elixir will be in high demand." Not everyone condemned Chu Feng. There were also people who expressed approval. For instance, a notorious old demon stood out to support him and said, "Haha, as expected of Demon King Chu. He actually committed such a big crime. His methods are above the standard. As expected of someone from the demonic path. Oh, we're not alone. Those who come after us will do good." However, he was soon unable to laugh because his disciple's grand disciple reported in a low voice, "Ancestral Master, your granddaughter has also gone to Earth. I just took a peek at the auction list, and it seems that Junior Sister Sainess's name is on it." The old fiendish demon's expression changed on the spot, and he said, "Ba, this is infuriating. Damn it, this little devil Chu Feng dares to sell my granddaughter? This old man will fight you to the death. Patriarch, please calm down. This devil doesn't recognize anyone. Have you forgotten that Zil Wan, Zhao Qing, and Yuan Mo were captured? They have Old Devil Z, Old Devil Zhao, and Yuan Mo behind them, so they have to pay protection fees. They're being extorted. You'd better think of a way to prepare some great medicine or scriptures. Otherwise, don't let your rivals get in the way and buy Junior Sister. You're infuriating this old man." The old monster was infuriated. Discussions were going on everywhere. The parties involved were furious, but there was nothing they could do. The Origin Beast platform was very lively. Countless people were discussing this matter, and many people were speechless when this matter was brought up, turning human trafficking and extortion into a charity banquet. It's so fresh and refined. This is really Chu Feng. That's right, it's in line with his style of doing things. He's too shameless. But this devil's methods are indeed powerful. He's even willing to sell the myriad star physique and innocuous divine physique. Who wouldn't be moved? If the divine source transplant is successful, then he'll have the potential to be invincible in the future. Forget it, they can't be invincible. The myriad star physique, innocuous divine physique, and origin magnetic sacred physique are so powerful. But haven't they still been captured by Demon Chu? Some people retorted, saying that Demon Chu was only a little special and that those people were still incomparably powerful. Many people in the starry skies were moved and wanted to go to Earth. Many divine sons were calling their friends, saying that they wanted to go to Earth to participate in the charity banquet. Among them was the silver-haired Lolita Ing Xiao Xiao, who was very enthusiastic. Wow, this is too fun. I must go. Ing Wudi, Ing Zhexian, are you guys going? Your purest, most beautiful, and adorable sister is officially inviting you to go and offer her love to support the charity event. Boom! Her forehead was immediately hit by a finger and a big bump swelled up. Tears welled up in her eyes as she pounced forward with all her might to fight her brother and sister. Interesting, undead silkworm, we just left Earth. Why don't we go back and participate in that charity banquet? Ji Chung from the Peacock race called out to the undead silkworm prince. Princess Yuan Yuan of the Origin Demon race was also the 10th most beautiful woman under the starry skies. She was enchanting and charming. She called out to her brother, Yuan Shicheng, to go to the Eastern Sea since they were originally on Earth. Brother, let's go quickly. This demon, Chu, actually dared to sneak attack and rob me back in Kunlun. He stole one of my belts. I'm so angry. I want to see him face to face. At the same time, she also called out to the Vermilion Bird Fairy, the 4th most beautiful woman under the starry skies. Earth, Eastern Sea. On Eternal Island, the radiance of pearls was resplendent and the multicolored glow of treasures was dazzling. All kinds of treasures were piled up into a small mountain. This time, Chu Feng and the others had obtained too many benefits. Apart from the secret treasures on the ground, there were also some key items, spatial bracelets, and so on. Among these spatial items, there were treasured medicines, weapons, and armor. It was truly a dazzling sight. Without a doubt, this was enough even if they didn't sell the Saint Children and the others. They wouldn't lack all kinds of resources for a very long time. After a round of howling, they divided the work. Some people were in charge of checking the spoils of war. Meanwhile, Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, and Ouyang Feng began to study the innocuous divine physique and the myriad star physique. They really wanted to deprive them of their powerful origin and seize their divine blood. Chu Feng, what are you doing? The myriad star physique Su Changxian was trembling. He was only 17 or 18 years old. He was usually frivolous and incomparably arrogant, but now he was afraid. That was because he had already heard that Chu Feng wanted to deprive him of his bloodline and refine his origin. At this moment, Ouyang Feng directly spat saliva on his face. He raised a snow-white dagger and said, "I'll cut you open. Be obedient and don't move." No. Su Changxian was aghast. His constitution was the source of his strength. He wasn't worried about being deprived, but he was afraid of being destroyed. He didn't believe that these people could successfully transplant it, but if he allowed them to torment him, his myriad star source might be destroyed. Chu Feng smiled and said, "Don't be afraid. I promise to keep you alive." Stop! The myriad star physique struggled and roared as he resisted with all his might. Puffed. Very soon, he found himself paralyzed there. His limbs were fixed in place, and some important parts had been nailed through. He couldn't move at all. Where's the so-called origin? Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, and Ouyang Feng studied for a long time. In the end, the Black Yak, the Old Llama, and the Manchurian Tiger also came to join the fun, but in the end, they couldn't find it. It should be spread all over his body and contained in his blood. Bring a vessel and let him bleed. The pitiful myriad star physique was used as an experiment. Whenever someone thought of an idea, they would try it on him. He immediately became a tragedy. This blood indeed contains an indescribable substance. It's pure and can be refined into a great medicine, Chu Feng said. The Manchurian tiger nodded and said, "Oh, I understand. We can continuously bleed him and raise him. We'll purify the myriad star source from his blood and sell it." Chu Feng said, "What else is there to sell? If we can really purify it, we'll turn you into the myriad star physique, the innocuous divine physique, and the origin magnetic sacred physique to replace them. After that, we can sell some remnant blood and conveniently sell their crippled bodies back to their respective sections." When they heard this, the faces of the myriad star physique and the origin magnetic sacred physique turned green. They increasingly felt that this great demon, Chu Feng, was terrifying and horrifying. "There's something good on him," Yellow Cattle said. "What is it?" Ouyang Feng asked. "You're a divine beast, so you can't use it. But to other people, it's many times more precious than a divine weapon," Yellow Cattle said. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. In a flash, Chu Feng knew what it was. It should be similar to the black and white millstone in his body and the medicinal mortar in Yellow Cattle's body. This kind of thing couldn't be refined unless one was a saint from a top-notch sect. That was because the materials needed were too particular. Moreover, it was somewhere between material and energy after taking shape. Yellow Cattle said, "This thing is hidden in the body and is somewhere between material and incorporeal. It's very difficult for outsiders to discover it, but a person like him definitely has it." Everyone nodded. As a myriad star physique, he definitely had this kind of tool on him. Chu Feng opened his fiery eyes and saw it, as expected. He immediately smiled and said, "It's a small pestle filled with starlight. It can crush all kinds of energy and purify it." "Great." The group was very happy. However, Chu Feng's face collapsed as he said, "I've killed the deity race's divine son and the netherworld race's saint son in Kunlun. I'm sure they also have it on them. I was besieged at that time, so I missed it." Everyone sighed. This kind of tool was very precious. After eating a mutant fruit, there was no need to worry about side effects. It could purify the beneficial substances in the fruit and quench the harmful medicinal substances in the body. In addition, this kind of thing could purify the blood in daily life and nourish the muscles, bones, and organs. It brought about all kinds of benefits. "You bunch of bandits," Su Chengxian roared. The small pestle in his body was a famous inheritance of the spirit race. Ordinary people weren't qualified to inherit it. "Hee, I think the origin magnetic sacred physique and the innocuous divine physique also have it." The group of great demons' eyes shone with green light. Zhou Shang's face immediately lost its color. He was ashamed and angry. He wanted to rise up on this planet and become the number one, but in the end, he had fallen to this step. Not long after, the glistening yellow small pestle in Zhou Shang's body was taken away. This thing had a great origin and was an inheritance of ancient earth. Chu Feng and Yellow Cattle both had it. But as a divine beast, Ouyang Feng had a special constitution and didn't need it at all. This was the excessive part of divine beasts and immortal birds. Their innate capital was too strong. After everyone's discussion, these two items were given to the Black Yak and the old Grandmaster Wu Chifeng respectively. The Black Yak was very excited. This meant that with this divine item in his body, he might reach the peak in the future. His foundation would be many times stronger than it was now, and he might become a saint. That was because this kind of item was prepared by the top sect for their direct descendants who could become saints. Following that, the origin magnetic sacred physique also roared, but it was useless. The item in his body had also been found. It was a small lamp that was very special. It burned energy impurities and refined the essence. It could also burn the mottled substances in one's blood and energy to purify it. After everyone voted, this item was given to the old Lama, whose combat power was relatively high. Seeing the Manchurian tiger, the old donkey, and Zhou Quan's fiery gazes, Chu Feng said, "Don't worry, will strive to get one each in the future. After that, they began to search the other saint children's bodies for such items. They actually do. Some of them are very good, but some are too ordinary. Chu Feng personally appraised them. The races and orthodoxies behind the saint children he had come into contact with were all very powerful. Thus, some of them had rare treasures in their bodies. The other races, even if they weren't as powerful, had similar items. Then, the Manchurian tiger, the old donkey, the mastiff king, and Zhou Quan were all incomparably happy. Without a doubt, everyone's overall strength would increase because of this. Even Chu Feng's parents had counterfeit items in their bodies that could also effectively refine blood and purify mutant fruits. Wait until we hunt top-notch divine children in the future. Then we'll help everyone exchange for what we can use now, said Chu Feng. Zhou Shang, Su Changxian, and the Origin Magnetic Sacred Physique roared again and again because the group had begun to focus their attention on them, searching for divine sources, star sources, and sacred sources. Some people with so-called peerless constitutions are born innately, while others are acquired. For example, the myriad star physique can be created by swallowing the legendary myriad star grass. In ancient times, there were people who swallowed the 9 orifices tribulation flower and became the 9 orifices tribulation transcendence physique that almost threatened Yao Yao. I believe that if these 3 people relied on swallowing rare ancient medicines to obtain their constitutions, then we can completely refine their bodies and extract the medicinal properties from them. When they heard Big Blackie's demonic words, the 3 people with great constitutions almost collapsed. This bull demon was too much of a scum. That makes sense. Chu Feng nodded. Then he stared at Zhou Shang and said, "Are you the innate, innocuous divine physique, or was it created by swallowing immortal medicines?" "Born innately," Zhou Shang said through gritted teeth. "I don't care if you're lying or not. Whether it's innate or acquired, I'll directly refine you like a medicine." Chu Feng sneered. Zhou Shang said, "Chu Feng, you can't do this. We're both native evolvers. If you kill me like this, it's no different from reducing the strength of the evolvers on the mother planet. I was wrong in the past. From now on, I promise to fight shoulder to shoulder with you and face the enemies from the outer realms together. Save it. I'm afraid of being stabbed in the back if I fight shoulder to shoulder with you. You know what you've done? For the sake of the robbery induction breathing technique, you've repeatedly targeted me. When I was away from Earth, you even hunted down my group of brothers and even wanted to attack my parents. How ruthless, how unscrupulous. Chu Feng, I was wrong in the past. I promise it won't happen again. We're both inheritors of the ancient Earth's secret arts, so we can't kill each other. Otherwise, it'll only make our enemies happy. You can't hurt me." After hearing Zhou Shang's words, Chu Feng directly slapped him and said, "Now you regret it? You've done so many evil things, yet you still expect me to forgive you. Some of the great demons of Kunlun died because of you. Can you resurrect them? Besides, so what if I kill you? Does this planet stop spinning without you? You're just a loser. Keeping you alive is of no use to me." This was undisguised contempt. Zhou Shang was not taking him seriously at all. This made Zhou Shang's heart burn with rage, and the depths of his eyes were incomparably gloomy. Unfortunately, he couldn't retaliate. Besides, are you really a creature from this planet? Chu Feng had always been suspicious of his identity, and the innocuous divine physique had once announced that he had come to attack a planet called Scarlet in the Lauren Galaxy. "I only did that to conceal my identity so that the Outer Realm people wouldn't know my true origins," said Zhou Shang. Chu Feng said coldly, "I see that your relationship with the Outer Realm races isn't bad. You didn't even frown when you cooperated with them to kill the native evolvers. It was rather natural. Under such circumstances, it doesn't matter where you're born. You're no different from the Outer Realm people. You're just as ruthless and merciless to the evolvers of this planet. Do you think I can make you stay? That's right. Slaughter this June Tua egg. He's such a good-for-nothing. My poor old friends, the Panther King and the Weaver King, died so miserably," roared one of the great demons of Kunlun. "Let him bleed and boil the medicine," said Chu Feng. At the same time, he also wanted to interrogate Zhou Shang. He hoped to obtain the heaven-flipping seal and the flying immortal spear, the two famous native combat techniques of ancient Earth. According to reports, they might be divine techniques. Even Uncle Ming hadn't mastered these two secret manuals. Boil 3 cauldrons of great medicine and recreate 3 powerful constitutions. Then, we'll auction off their crippled bodies. This was the plan of Chu Feng and the group of great demons. Chapter 711. Medicinal fragrance assailed the nostrils from the 3 brass cauldrons. The water inside was bubbling and boiling. It was mixed with various medicinal ingredients and a bright red liquid that was being refined. In the distance, Zhou Shang, Su Changxian, and Origin Magnetic Sacred Physique were on the verge of death. Their blood had been drained dozens of times during these 3 days. The so-called divine blood, myriad star blood, and saint blood in their bodies had dried up and been refined completely. But it wasn't over yet. Every time their blood dried up and they fainted, some blood-replenishing medicine would be stuffed into their mouths. Moreover, Ouyang Feng, the Black Yak, and the others personally helped them circulate their energy to revive their divine bodies and myriad star physique, allowing them to display the various mysteries of their constitutions. The 3 of them were continuously squeezed dry. Their bodies dried up again and again, and their vitality was almost completely extracted. Su Changxian was incomparably hateful. He felt that he was truly crippled. His myriad star physique's origin had been severely drained, and more than 70% of it had dissipated through his blood. If this went on, he would really be finished. He was clear about his own situation. His constitution had transformed because he had eaten a stalk of myriad star grass, and he had obtained his illustrious reputation today. But now, Great Demon Shu was refining him like a kind of medicine, constantly draining his blood and extracting its medicinal properties. In the end, he would definitely lose everything. Zhou Shang was also roaring with boundless anger. He had already been drained 41 times, and his entire body was almost all skin and bones. The divine blood in his body had dried up dozens of times and was completely squeezed out. In the distance, a brass cauldron's medicinal fragrance assailed the nostrils. That was a mixture of innocuous divine blood and various medicinal ingredients being refined. The effects aren't bad. After testing, the medicinal properties are astonishing. It could be refined into a great medicine, said the Manchurian tiger. He was watching over the 3 bronze cauldrons. Chu Feng said, "Very good. I believe that the medicinal properties of their origin can be refined in the end. It will end when their bodies become crippled. At that time, the medicinal properties will more or less be extracted. Chu Feng, you will suffer retribution. Sooner or later, you will be struck by lightning from the heavens." Origin Magnetic's sacred physique gritted his teeth and howled. He was already in despair and couldn't escape. In the end, his divine blood would be stripped away and he would be completely crippled. Your threats and curses are meaningless. Try something else. I was struck by lightning not long ago, but I'm still alive and kicking right now. That so-called heavenly tribulation is nothing more than this. Let's clean up. The charity banquet is about to start. We have to welcome the guests, Chu Feng said. Everyone laughed. Other than Chu Feng's parents, the old Grandmaster Wu Qifeng, and a few others who didn't want to join the fun, everyone else started to get ready, wanting to go together. Old Bear, what do you think of me? Old Donkey bared his buck teeth and asked the Black Bear King. It's better to wear a mask, the Black Bear said. What do you mean? Old Donkey asked. The front teeth are too big, the Black Bear King told him directly. Hee-haw, Black Bear, don't hit me in the face when you hit me, but don't point out my shortcomings when you scold me. You're too mean. In the end, most of this group of people had similar styles. Almost all of them had been influenced by the big Black Yak. They all had swept-back hair, black sunglasses, and cigars as thick as carrots in their mouths. Chu Feng was speechless. This group of people didn't look like good people at all. No matter how he looked at them, they looked like big brothers from the underworld. None of them looked like good people when they were gathered together. The elder ape of the Great Woods Temple, the slanted Ouyang Feng, the old donkey who took advantage of people the moment he opened his mouth, and Zhou Quan with 4 horns hidden in his swept-back hair. None of them looked normal. As for the gangster-like old black, there was no need to talk about him. He strode over with his swept-back hair and a cigar in his mouth. He was dressed in a black suit. Only the old llama could be considered kind and amiable. He wouldn't listen to them change their styles, even if he was beaten to death. If he were also dressed like that and revealed his big bald head, that would be a big joke. It would definitely make people believe that there are no good people here, only scoundrels. However, the Horse King filled in for him. He was dressed in a gangster-like black suit and shook his shiny bald head as he mixed in with the group. That was a fierce sight. "Brother, you're not being serious at all. We're attending a banquet today. You have to wear formal clothes." The big black yak was showing off, saying that Chu Feng wasn't being particular. "I'm going to extort and sell people. I'm not really attending a banquet," Chu Feng corrected directly. The dragoness smiled faintly. Her blue hair was glowing, and a pair of dragon horns could be faintly seen amidst her long hair. Her figure was slender, and her skin was as white as snow. She was exceptionally beautiful. Fortunately, her attire could be considered normal. Her aqua blue dress dragged on the ground, showing off her exceptional charm. Bring along those living saints' sons and saintesses, as well as the food ingredients. Set sail. Afterwards, the group of tied-up saints' sons and saintesses formed a long string and were driven onto a giant rainbow-colored divine ship. This was the largest ship left on the sea when the Allied army attacked. It was said that this ship belonged to a certain group of space pirates. It could be considered an astonishing secret treasure that could realize spatial transitions. The group of saints' sons and saintesses were now listless and incomparably dispirited. This time they had completely failed. They were incomparably vexed and resentful. They were being herded like cattle to be sold off. "Go quickly. Don't dilly-dally. I'll cook whoever doesn't cooperate," the Manchurian tiger urged. The big black yak was also threatening them. "Those saintesses are the ones who said that their culinary skills aren't bad. The banquet's feast will all depend on you. Otherwise, this old yak will personally stew all of you." The group of saints' sons and saintesses secretly gritted their teeth. The situation was too tragic. They had been reduced to prisoners, berated, and had to do all kinds of manual labor. For instance, some of the saints' sons were still responsible for steering the large ship and sailing on the sea after their shoulder blades had been pierced by divine chains. Finally, they arrived at the designated location and left the misty region of Mount Eternal. The rainbow-colored ship floated on the eastern sea. It was indeed very big, like a mountain suspended on the sea. At this moment, the red sun was setting in the west. The bright red sunset dyed the sea red, especially the western sea. The sea and sky were the same color, and the sunset carried a faint golden luster. It reflected the sky and sea in a patch of scarlet red and dazzling. "The guests are here. Old Donkey welcomed them." The big black yak seemed to have become a butler as he ordered the old donkey around. The old donkey had changed into a formal attire. Although he had transformed into a human form, his big ears were still very obvious. He led a few saintesses to the ship's railing and greeted the guests with a smile. "Welcome," as the old donkey and the captured saintesses shouted in unison. Chu Feng's nose almost became crooked from anger. He said, "How vulgar. What kind of show are you guys putting on? It's like a small restaurant." "I also feel that it's awkward. To stand on both sides with a smile and set off Grandpa Donkey's handsomeness. Grandpa Donkey will welcome the guests myself." The old donkey accidentally revealed a hoof, and his transformation wasn't complete. He quickly hid it in his sleeve and began to formally welcome the guests. Hee-haw, welcome." Chu Feng lost all his temper after seeing this. He turned around and left. The big black yak smoothed things over and said, "It's fine. In any case, we're here to extort and extort people. There's really no need to make it so fresh and refined." He also came over to help and stood on both sides with the Manchurian tiger. Both of them wore big black sunglasses and looked like two hoodlum door gods. Immortal destiny physique. The old donkey's odd cry came from the deck. He hadn't expected to welcome a big fish who had arrived so early. After that, Chu Feng also turned around and sized up the immortal destiny physique. This person had fought fiercely with him on Mount Kunlun. He didn't expect him to be so daring as to actually come to the banquet. "Brother Chu, I only fought with you to catch the robber when you disguised yourself as the bronze masked bandit. It was a misunderstanding. Today, I want to buy some items from the auction. We'll only talk business and not fight." The immortal destiny physique was quite calm. His hair was sparkling, and energy seeped out from his pores. This person wasn't just ordinarily powerful. Even yellow cattle became serious. "That's easy. Please come inside, Dao brother. Additionally, I still haven't asked for your distinguished name." Chu Feng also wore a smile and didn't turn hostile. "Zheng Tianming." The immortal destiny physique answered. "Zheng Tianming, fighting for the mandate of heaven?" Chu Feng nodded and invited the immortal destiny physique inside. An auspicious cloud floated over. It was so colorful that it made the sunset glow dim. This caused cries of surprise to ring out from the nearby sea. That was because someone recognized the people on the colorful cloud. They were from the quasi-immortal race. Ing Wudi stood tall and heroic with an imposing appearance. He was a dragon among men with an extraordinary temperament. He was known as one of the strongest young experts in this cosmos. Ing Zhixian had a graceful and elegant figure. Her silver hair fluttered in the wind, and her beautiful eyes were misty. She was the third most beautiful woman under the starry skies. The last one was a silver-haired Lolita. She was mischievous, and her big eyes blinked back and forth as she looked at Chu Feng. What an obedient and beautiful young lady. "Come, Big Brother Feng will take you to see the whales." Many people's faces darkened when these words were spoken. Naturally, the silver-haired Lolita, Ing Xiaoxiao's elder brother and elder sister, were among them. Chu Feng's face also darkened because he wasn't the one who said it. It was Ouyang Feng. He was a little slow on the uptake and finally understood why this fellow's name had the word Feng in it. He could make things difficult for him at crucial moments. Ouyang Feng's face was covered in golden stripes as he grinned widely. He moved closer to Ing Xiaoxiao and wanted to take her to see the whales. The silver-haired Lolita's eyes were bright. She could tell at a glance that he wasn't actually that old. She said, "You damn toad. You're only a bean, yet you dare to imitate others and pretend to be a strange uncle. Die." Toad immediately squinted and was about to spit out his saliva when Chu Feng hurriedly pulled him to the side of the ship so that his saliva could be sprayed into the sea. In the end, a large number of dead fish appeared and floated on the surface of the sea with their white bellies. "So poisonous." The old donkey cried out strangely. The group of people was speechless as they looked at Ouyang Feng. Ing Wudi nodded at Chu Feng, but he didn't say anything. It was evident that he had a rather bad impression of him, because Chu Feng had robbed his elder and younger sister. Ing Zhixian, on the other hand, smiled in greeting. Even though she had been knocked unconscious and had her secret treasure belt snatched away, she didn't turn hostile at this moment. Chu Feng welcomed her with a smile and greeted her. "Fairy Ing, please come this way. You're truly like the bright moon in the sky, bright and flawless. You're above the common populace, and you're worthy of the title Fairy Zhixian." The silver-haired Lolita smiled sweetly at the side and said, "Hee, Chu Feng, do you want to be my brother-in-law? It'll be very difficult. That group of old monsters in my family are very inflexible. Have you seen Ing Wudi? He's pretending to be profound and mature at such a young age. You can guess how inflexible that group of old men in my family are." This little fellow simply wouldn't rest until he shocked people to death with his words. She was directly pulled by her elder sister by the ear and carried away, thus avoiding the outcome of being suppressed by Ing Wudi. People from all walks of life rushed over continuously. Chu Feng thought there wouldn't be many people because the sex in the starry sky who were interested in the auction should be auctioning through the internet. He didn't expect that many orthodoxies would send representatives to personally come to the scene. At the same time, there were also evolvers on Earth. For example, a youth with wheat-colored skin and a robust body with short hair appeared here while riding on a parrot. "Vajra, Chu Feng was astonished as he recognized him immediately. At that time, when the world had just started to change, there were 4 mutants among the younger generation: Silver Wing, Vajra, Fire Spirit King, and White Tiger. At the same time, Chu Feng also recognized his mount. It was precisely the parrot that yelled Vajra was riding a pig during the battle at Mount Taiyang. Chu Feng was speechless and a little confused. In the end, the parrot opened its mouth and said, "Damn it, this wild boar rider is taking revenge. Demon King Chu Feng, save me. I don't want to be his mount. I've suffered for over a year." Chu Feng didn't pay attention to this kind of request because he felt guilty toward Vajra. Back when he had killed some experts from the Celestial Biology Corporation, Vajra had taken the blame for him several times. "Brother Chu, long time no see. Who would have thought we'd come this far?" Vajra seemed rather emotional. "Brother Vajra, please come inside. We'll talk in detail in a while." Chu Feng patted his shoulder and welcomed him personally. Next, many unexpected guests appeared, such as Yang Xian, Hu Qingsheng, and Qing Lan. Chu Feng immediately laughed and went up to them incomparably affectionately, directly calling them brother-in-law and sister-in-law. In the end, the 3 people's faces darkened on the spot. Only after seeing Yang Shan and Hu Ruoxian behind them did Chu Feng restrain himself. Princess Lin of the Origin Magnetic Immortal Cave had also arrived. She had a complicated expression when she met Chu Feng once again. Back then, she had believed that Chu Feng wouldn't be able to rise and would be suppressed by the divine sons of the outer realm. She had even given up a good karma for this reason. Back then, she hadn't warned Chu Feng in advance when he was attacked by the 100 Transformations Saint Child, Yuan Feng. "Princess Qi Lin, please." Chu Feng gestured. "Who would have thought you'd actually come this far?" Qi Lin couldn't help but speak. This was truly an unexpected outcome. The natives of Earth had actually swept through the various divine sons and saintesses, capturing them in batches and holding several auctions. Even now, she still felt that it was unreal. Later on, representatives from the outer realm arrived in succession. Many of them were here to bid for their own saint children, while others were here to inquire about their missing saintesses. Later on, some old friend from Earth arrived, such as the golden-winged rock of Mount Hua and the old mountain tortoise of Mount Kantong. Next, Jiang Luoshun, who had a complicated relationship with Chu Feng, appeared. She was still as beautiful as ever, worthy of her title as the national goddess. She came with her bosom friend, Xia Qinyu. "Chu Feng, who would have thought you'd be able to cause so much trouble? Now you can even harm the extraterrestrials," Jiang Luoshun said softly. Jiang Luoshun spoke softly. In truth, she was a bit nervous. Could she still speak to Chu Feng like this at this point? Apparently, she was overthinking things. Chu Feng didn't put on any airs and was still the same as before. "You'll also be selling secret treasures today. Can I give you a discount if I like them?" Jiang Luoshun asked with a smile. "Of course not. We've slept together before. I'll give you whatever I like." Chu Feng waved his hand casually. "Go to hell." Jiang Luoshun was both embarrassed and angry as she hurriedly walked inside. However, Xia Qinyu had a strange expression on her face. She whispered in a secluded place, "Luoshun, you're really open-minded. Be careful. You want to die? What nonsense are you spouting?" Soon after, the Vermilion Bird Fairy, the Undead Silkworm Prince, Yuan Shicheng, Yuan, and other important characters arrived. There are also a few people who seem to have special constitutions. "Everyone, please forgive us for our poor hospitality." The Black Yak was like a hoodlum. He was dressed in a suit and leather shoes, and his hair was shiny after being oiled. He was actually in charge of hosting. The Manchurian Tiger was his assistant, and the old donkey was running around. Ouyang Yi and the toad were also on his left and right. They were in charge of patrolling the place. This kind of combination made everyone present speechless. "The food isn't bad," someone whispered. Many evolvers revealed odd expressions after choosing some food because they felt that it wasn't inferior to the delicacies of the outer realms. Before long, some people gathered together and chatted with wine glasses. The atmosphere could be considered harmonious. Someone asked, "Brother Chu Feng, what ingredients are these? I feel that they're quite good. They're not inferior to the delicacies of the top-grade orthodoxies banquets. As the chief steward, the black yak immediately grinned and took over the conversation. It's not that I want to say this, but those so-called banquets in the outer realms can't compare to ours. Do you know what you're eating? A top-grade saint child who transformed into his true form and fried some ribs. What did you say? Which saint child? The golden mountain goat, saint child. The Manchurian tiger, as the assistant, immediately went forward and was in charge of answering. That person was petrified on the spot and couldn't move at all. The toad stood at the side and immediately curled his lips in disdain. He glanced sideways at him and said, "Alien, you're so inexperienced. You've never eaten before, have you?" F***CK. That's our race's saint child. This guest cried and went crazy. What ingredients are these? The people nearby all stood up and asked seriously about their food. This is a white jade elephant's trunk. Oh, this is a 5-color deer breast. This plate should be a 3-color crab cake. Yes, remember, this is a race known as the divine crab in the depths of the starry skies. The old donkey was very enthusiastic as he introduced the food. In the end, the faces of the people around him turned green. That was because the people eating were all divine sons and saintesses. They were actually used as ingredients. The big black yak introduced in a carefree manner and said, weren't there a lot of evolvers trapped in the heavenly fire thunder domain last time? Some of them couldn't hold on and died. In the spirit of not wasting food, we gathered a large amount of roasted ingredients. Now, everyone has the fortune to eat. Chapter 712. For a moment, it was unknown how many people at the banquet slammed the table and stood up in anger. They wanted to discuss the Tao with the black yak, old donkey, and Chu Feng to demand an explanation. Goddamn good food. You're going too far. Demon King Chu Feng, bull demon. You must give us an explanation, roared a middle-aged man. Chu Feng stood up with a thump and asked him calmly, "You want me to give you an explanation by name?" "This." The middle-aged man stammered on the spot, unable to advance or retreat. How could he not be afraid after calming down? This young demon had killed over 9,000 evolvers in one go. There was nothing he didn't dare to do. Now, he was challenging him in front of everyone. This was somewhat suspicious of courting death. He was afraid on the spot and was in a dilemma. Old Donkey came up to smooth things over and asked Chu Feng to sit back down. Hee-haw, I say, everyone, you're wrongly accusing people. He shouted as soon as he came up, which made the group of people feel disgusted. They had never seen such a shameless person who took advantage of others as soon as he came up. Old Donkey continued, "We're warm and hospitable and offer the best delicacies. You have to know that even powerful sects like the deity race, Shilin clan, Damning Pure Land, and Spirit race can't bear to make divine sons feast and saintest delicacies. Isn't this enough to explain the problem?" It would have been better if Old Donkey hadn't mentioned it. After mentioning it like this, some people exploded in anger on the spot. There were even some who were making a racket. "Donkey, you're really hateful," shouted an old man across from him. Old Donkey didn't like what he heard and said, "Old Goat, you were eating more deliciously than anyone else just now, but you're falling out with me after eating. What kind of morality is this? What did you give me to eat?" "The ribs of the golden goat, Saint's son." "Ugh, I'm ashamed to face the Saint's son." That old man squeezed out a few drops of tears. Old Donkey couldn't take it anymore and said, "This is a buffet. You chose it yourself, and we offered up the best delicacies. I clearly saw you go to get your food again and again. I didn't know that was my race's Saint's son. You are shameless and hateful, deceiving me." At this time, the toad stuck its head out and slanted its eyes in disdain. "Are you illiterate? Every dish has such big words beside them. They're clearly written and clearly introduced. It's really scary how uneducated extraterrestrials are." Being looked down upon by a slanted toad, not only did the elder feel resentful, many others were momentarily speechless. They all wanted to curse inwardly because many of them didn't recognize those words. "Is this an ancient divine text? We don't recognize it." Someone said in a soft voice. This is Earth's common language. Okay? Be more careful and learn more words. You guys are really ignorant and incompetent. Ouyang Toad shook his head. The group of people suddenly wanted to vomit blood. What the hell? It was just a modern language on Earth. Who would be able to recognize it? It wasn't like they were from a particularly famous evolutionary civilization. In their hearts, Earth was still considered a piece of wild land, a barbarian planet that had declined to the point where it could no longer be mentioned. After that, people discovered that the old donkey and the toad Ouyang had completely strayed off topic after getting involved. Many people were dissatisfied and expressed their indignation. Because of this, the black yak appeared with a smile on his face. He looked very amiable and publicly said that this was a work error. He immediately used the common language of the universe to label all kinds of food. At the same time, he would change the food for a small portion of the dissatisfied guests. Indeed, only a small portion of people were unlucky enough to eat their own race's saint's son. The others were still quite shocked and curious. After all, it was impossible to eat such ingredients, even in some of the most important events in the universe. In truth, what happened here was immediately transmitted back to the starry skies and caused a huge uproar. Doubtlessly, the minority races involved were filled with killing intent. Their sect masters and imperial rulers were furious and wanted nothing more than to kill Chu Feng immediately. However, there were even more people on the Origin Beast platform who were boiling over like a landslide or tsunami. Oh my, I'm so envious, jealous, and hateful. To be able to eat Saint's Son dishes, Divine Son ribs, and Saint's crab cakes, this is truly an extraordinary fortune. It's worth bragging about for the rest of my life. What a waste. I also want to eat such a feast. Then, the images transmitted from Earth to the starry skies showed that the 8 chefs all had great origins. The group of people stared straight at them. At this moment, the black yak led a group of kitchen maids onto the stage. They added more food to the distinguished guests and inquired about their well-being. Damn, isn't that the Saintess Mu Xian? She's actually one of the chefs. Oh my, who did I see? It's Fairy Su Fei. She's a maid, serving tea and pouring water for people. Doubtlessly, the scenes at the Eastern Seas banquet made many evolvers from various races in the starry skies unable to sit still. They wanted nothing more than to attend the banquet immediately. Respected ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Eastern Sea Charity Banquet. On behalf of Chu Feng and Mount Eternal, Old Yak sincerely thanks everyone for coming. At this moment, the Black Yak was not only the housekeeper, but also the host. He was talking incessantly there. After a series of respectful speeches, he said, "Here, we solemnly declare that the proceeds from tonight's auction will be donated to Mount Eternal to support the rise of evolvers there. We guarantee that we won't embezzle a single cent." The group of people wanted to throw rotten eggs at him, but they couldn't find any after searching for a long time. Many evolvers were cursing and swearing in their hearts. Wasn't this just an auction held by a group of bandits from Mount Eternal? They wanted to sell saint children from all walks of life, but now they actually said it in such a fresh and refined manner. It was really shameful. Silence. The old lama appeared in monastic robe draped over his shoulders. He looked solemn and dignified as he looked at all the guests. Then he opened his mouth and announced, "The auction officially begins." The group of people felt dizzy. The Buddhist race was also involved. "Hello, is Grandmaster Bajia from the Buddhist race here? It's me, Old Wu. I'm in the Milky Way. Yes, I'm participating in an auction on Earth. I'm a little dizzy when I see people from the Buddhist race supporting Great Demon Chu. What? The Buddhist race talks about fate. You don't know what's going on either? Let fate decide. Hey, Grandmaster Bajia, say something." Someone immediately contacted the powerhouses of the Buddhist race, feeling very guilty. That was because the Buddhist race and the Tao race were among the top races in the universe. They were ridiculously powerful. Don't contact them. Do you really think you're from the Buddhist race just because you've shaved your head? Look over there. There's a big baldy wearing sunglasses and holding a cigar in his mouth. He's eating meat and drinking wine in big bowls. He's definitely not from the Buddhist race. Someone gestured toward the Horse King with his mouth. Buddha, the Horse King has 3 eyes. He really is a Buddhist. The Horse King glared. Upon seeing this, the 2 people immediately cursed their bad luck. It had to be said that the atmosphere at the scene was enthusiastic. Perhaps it could also be said that it was very chaotic. Just the combination of the toad who was looking askance at people, the ruffian Big Black Yak, the four-horned Joe Quan, and the bald and shiny Horse King made it impossible for them to calm down. Quiet down. Now, please take a look at the first auction item. The elder ape from the Great Woods Temple also appeared as the auctioneer. He held a big stick and used it as a hammer as he hammered the item. The people were in an uproar. The first item to be auctioned was a beauty, one who could be considered a rare beauty. This is the Saintess of the 9 Lives cat race. Even she has been captured and left here. How shocking. At this time, many people were ineffably shaken. That was because the Saintess of the 9 Lives cat race was an expert ranked in the 60s among the younger generation. This kind of ranking was enough to look down on countless people of the younger generation. She was destined to become a saint in the future, yet she had actually been captured and suppressed here. Before this, people actually didn't know. It could be said that the scene became silent within a short period of time. Everyone was truly subdued. In the starry skies, the people watching the live broadcast were also shaken and dumbfounded. The Big Black Yak saw that the situation wasn't right. He felt that there was going to be an awkward silence because he didn't know the rankings of the cat race saintesses. He immediately shot a glance at the Manchurian tiger and asked him to act as a prop. Everyone, don't miss this opportunity. Do you see this lady? She's a pure tiger race expert. Do you see her clothes as white as snow? She's quite otherworldly and beautiful. Let me tell you clearly that her status is noble. Yes, those who don't know her might think she's from the cat race, but that's not the case. She's from the white tiger race. The Manchurian tiger's spittle flew everywhere. He felt that the so-called cat race saintess couldn't compare to the tiger race. That was why he was doing his best to fake the price. The group of people was fairly speechless. They felt that he didn't understand the market and didn't know how great the origins of the 9 Lives cat race were. Many tiger races simply couldn't compare. The old donkey whispered, "Brother, come down from the stage. Stop raising the price." I saw the comments of those grandsons on the Origin Beast platform. They're all scolding you, saying you're pretending to know when you don't. This is the saintess of the 9 Lives cat race. She'll definitely fetch a sky-high price. As expected, when a Manchurian tiger jumped down from the stage with a dark expression, many people immediately rushed to bid. In the blink of an eye, the price of the saintess of the 9 Lives cat race had been raised to a sky-high price. Afterward, her clansmen appeared on the stage and looked disdainfully at everyone present. They even warned the bidders in the starry skies that in the end, they had successfully bought their saintess. The final price was 5 six-path reincarnation pills and 10 drops of deity elixir. This price was simply too extravagant. Everyone's eyes were glued to it. In the past, Chu Feng had sold so many saint children. Apart from the deity's sons, the others could only be exchanged for 1 six-path reincarnation pill per dozen. Today, one person could exchange for so many. This was an absolutely sky-high price. Clang, clang, clang. The elder ape of the Great Woods Temple pursed his lips and was very solemn. He swung his big stick 3 times in succession and finally shouted, "Sold." Everyone was speechless again. All right, the second treasure we're going to auction is a dragon steed. The Black Yak shouted with all his might, stirring up the atmosphere. Afterward, a tall divine steed was led over. It was fairly robust, and its 4 hooves were glowing. A portion of its fur was silvery white like satin. It was a divine steed. Of course, a large portion of its fur was dark. For instance, its mane and tail were completely bare. The Black Yak said, "I'm sorry, Brother Chu Feng is a domain researcher. Sometimes he needs a spiritual brush to draw domain runes. That's why he plucked out some of the spiritual fur on this dragon steed. My brother is going to make a divine brush later. But don't worry, this dragon steed's constitution is extremely strong. It'll recover in no time. Everyone was dumbfounded. This pitiful saint child of the heavenly horse race. He was known as one of the fastest runners of the younger generation in the universe. His movement techniques were astonishing. He had actually been caught and couldn't escape. He had even fallen to such a state. The old donkey appeared and introduced seriously. Of course, this was also to brag and raise the price. He said, "Everyone, please don't worry. I'll appraise him as a member of his family. This mule can run extremely fast and possesses divine speed." A mule? The group of people almost fell to the ground. As for the saint child of the heavenly horse race, he almost stood up and fought the old donkey to the death. His eyes immediately turned red. Clang! In the end, the old donkey was ambushed and kicked by the Pegasus. The old donkey cried out in pain and fell down the platform in a sorry state. However, he was very professional and said, "Everyone, please excuse me. This mule's temper is a bit bad, but it doesn't matter. As long as you can tame it, I guarantee you'll be able to run as fast as lightning." The black yak waved at him and said, "Old donkey, come down. Those June 2 eggs on the Origin Beast platform are cursing you badly. They said your donkey eyes don't recognize a Pegasus. They're almost done cursing you. Come back quickly and stop raising the price. This is really embarrassing." In the end, the heavenly horse Saint Child's price was even higher than the Saintess of the 9 Lives cat race. Many people had their eyes on his extreme speed. He was the Saint Child of the heavenly horse race and was destined to be one of the fastest beings in the entire starry skies. How ridiculous! A mule is worth 6 six-path reincarnation pills? Are those people crazy? The old donkey was dumbfounded. Clang! 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 The elder ape of the Great Woods Temple swung his big stick and smashed it 3 times in a row to announce the deal. The black yak began to introduce the next auction item and said, "As the saying goes, a 3-legged toad is hard to find, but there are plenty of 2-legged people. Today, we're fortunate enough to catch a 3-legged golden toad. Everyone, please take a look." After that, the black yak, the old donkey, and the Manchurian tiger saw that Ouyang Feng had decisively followed him onto the stage and walked toward the auction item. Chapter 7:13. Originally, I wanted to write both chapters together, but seeing that I couldn't take any longer, I decided to write one long chapter. I'll write another one later. The high platform was very spacious. A 3-legged golden toad was standing there with its belly and cheeks puffed up. It stared at everyone with discontent. It could be considered an auspicious beast with extraordinary abilities. It could spit out money and drop secret treasures and weapons. It was very powerful. It thought that the toad would be like the old donkey and the Manchurian tiger, relying on its resemblance to its owner to talk nonsense and drive up the price. I'm different from you. I'm an auspicious beast. Our race is rare in the universe. Whoever invites me away has to be worshipped. The 3-legged golden toad puffed up its cheeks and glared angrily. It was extremely arrogant. This was indeed the case. In large-scale battles between evolvers, this kind of creature would often be invited to the front lines. Once the battle started, there would inevitably be a terrifying saint-rank 3-legged golden toad spitting out money to seize the weapons of the opposing evolver army. Due to the rarity of this kind of creature, even if they didn't form an evolutionary sect, they still had a high status and were valued by various races. That was why the 3-legged golden toad wasn't worried at all. On the contrary, it was arrogant and sulking. It looked askance at Ouyang Feng with an incomparably conceited appearance. However, it was overthinking things. Ouyang Feng's golden-striped face was somewhat gloomy after he got on stage. Without saying anything, he kicked the 3-legged golden toad and then lifted it up to give it a beating. "Disappointing thing, I made you a captive. F***CK. You still dare to look at me out of the corner of your eyes. Just looking at you makes me angry. I made you golden. I made you a golden toad. Isn't this ruining my reputation? You think you're from the same clan as me? You coward. I'll beat you to death." Ouyang kicked and slashed, beating the 3-legged golden toad until it cried out. It couldn't take it anymore and was completely dumbfounded. It thought that Ouyang Feng would go all out to praise it and drive up the price. But in the end, this was the result. Oh my God, what's going on? The group was dumbfounded. This time, it wasn't driving up the price, but beating it up. All the guests were speechless. Some people guessed that this was the latest unconventional method of driving up the price. Then, some people jeered. Kick the three-legged golden toad twice, and it'll still be the same price. Bang, bang, bang. On the high platform, the three-legged golden toad had a bloody nose and a swollen face. The golden radiance around its body had dimmed. Its entire body was twitching as it wept bitterly, begging for mercy. Stop fighting. We're all toads, born from the same root. Why are you in such a hurry to torture each other? The three-legged golden toad started foaming at the mouth as it cried out in pain. There were also treasure fall coins that were formed from energy scattering all over the ground. Ouyang Feng didn't stop as he said, "You're still trying to be polite? I'll beat you to death, you damn toad. I'll make you transform into me. Let me tell you, I'm a mythological beast, not a monster like you. I'm only temporarily in this state. I'm crying. This is my original body." The three-legged golden toad cried loudly. Then, it decisively transformed into a human. Comparatively speaking, its destructive power wasn't enough, so it wasn't restricted. There weren't any divine chains that pierced through its shoulder blades. At this moment, he had become a youth whose face was covered in the imprints of golden copper coins. He was aggrieved as he endured Ouyang Feng's punches. Everyone was rather speechless, especially those saint children and saintesses who were waiting to be auctioned off. They felt that transforming into human form was risky and that they needed to be cautious on the stage. All right, brother. A group of people on the Origin Beast platform are praising you and praising you. Hurry up and stop. The Black Yak quickly dissuaded him. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to sell the three-legged golden toad if he were to cripple it. The Manchurian tiger, an old donkey, immediately became unhappy and made a ruckus. What is this? I'm being cursed to death for selling a cat. Yet Brother Ouyang is being praised for beating up a toad. Hee-haw, it's really unfair. Grandpa Donkey only sold a mule, yet that group of grandsons on the Origin Beast platform are shouting to kill me. They're saying that my donkey's eyes don't recognize gold and jade. Achoo! The reason was very simple. The three-legged golden toad was very useful in the great battle between evolvers. It had also caused them to be arrogant. Wherever they went, people would worship them and order them around. They would frequently stick out their bellies and puff out their cheeks as they didn't look anyone in the eye. As such, a group of people naturally applauded when they saw someone beating up the genius of this race. Of course, their attitude would be another matter if they really waited for a certain sect to bid for it back. With a swoosh, Ouyang Feng jumped off the stage. In the end, the three-legged golden toad and the Pegasus Saint Child reached the same price. The elder ape from the Great Woods Temple struck down 3 times with his stick to seal the deal. We've struck it rich. I didn't expect these goods to be so expensive. If I had known earlier, Brother Chu Feng would have been merciful and burned fewer saint children to death. These are all 6-path reincarnation pills. However, the following items weren't as popular and the final prices weren't high. Hey, that 2-headed golden lion. You're so bold and powerful, yet you didn't even earn back a single 6-path reincarnation pill. How can you be so cheap? Shouted the old donkey. Zhou Quan, the old bear, and the others also couldn't understand. They said that the people participating in the auction were suppressing the price. The Golden Lion King immediately felt the urge to cry. It was already shameful enough that it had been captured and auctioned off. Now, someone was saying that it was cheap. It really wanted to bite that donkey to death in one bite and slap that 4-horned humanoid monster to death. The East Sea at night was undulating. A bright moon hung high in the sky, shining on the surface of the sea. From time to time, it would be smashed into pieces by the waves. The mountain-like ship was brightly lit. The auction was proceeding in an orderly manner. Chu Feng walked out. He had just chatted with Vodra and unexpectedly found Silverwing, one of the 4 mutants, talking to him for a long time. Silverwing mentioned Linoy and asked Chu Feng if he knew where she was. Ever since Linoy disappeared, celestial biology had been deteriorating. Not to mention the evolved beings from the outer realms. It was even at the bottom of the financial groups. After a while, Chu Feng left. He stood alone on the deck and looked up at the starry sky. He frowned and felt a little disappointed. Linoy had been gone for a long time. Recently, he had actually forgotten about her. But when he really thought about it, he sighed again. That was because he was a little doubtful whether Linoy was still in this sea of stars. Now that he thought about it, she was in control of a superstar inheritance tower. That tower was very special. It could actually be divided into two halves, like yin and yang. Because of this, he had asked Yao Yao and Uncle Ming. That was one of the most important energy towers in ancient times. It was said that it had been studied for a long time without being fully understood. So much so that a certain big shot had specially studied it for many years. Only when Chu Feng discovered Yao Yao's grandfather's secret under Mount Jijin and talked to Uncle Ming did Uncle Ming tell him that the mysterious big shot who studied the superstar tower was Yao Yao's grandfather. Yao Yao's grandfather had unexpectedly obtained a yin and yang energy tower that could be divided into two halves. It was definitely not an ordinary item. Chu Feng felt that Linoy must have triggered some kind of factor to be able to unexpectedly obtain the inheritance from above. Otherwise, it would be difficult to obtain it. Moreover, he even suspected that Linoy might not be in this universe now. Perhaps she was in a broken universe in the primal chaos? He couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. That was because the things Yao Yao's grandfather studied were all related to the Yang realm. He wanted to fight his way back to the Yang realm. Then, Chu Feng discovered Ying Zhaxian of the quasi-saint race. He held her sister's hand and came to the other side of the deck to watch the recovered Earth seascape. Clearly, they weren't simply appreciating the beautiful scenery. There was an old woman beside them who was overlooking the eastern sea under the night sky and observing the density of the spiritual qi. Oh, there were many underwater caves back then. I reckon the most famous ones will only come into being after a period of time. The old woman's lips opened and closed, but no sound came out. However, Chu Feng's fiery eyes saw everything clearly. He could understand the universal language through her movements. Ah, Demon King Chu Feng, you're here too. You have to know that you can scare people to death, cried Ying Xiao. They had discovered Chu Feng. Chu Feng walked over very naturally to worm his way into their relationship. He would soon enter the starry skies again. If he could avoid it, he didn't want to become enemies with the whole world. One of the deity race in the top 10 was enough to keep him busy. Chu Feng, you robbed us and stole my snacks, cried the silver-haired little Lolita, touching his sore spot. In the next second, her mouth was stuffed with some snacks by Chu Feng as if he was performing a magic trick. She couldn't say anything as she whimpered. Then, Chu Feng and Ying Zhaxian began to chat. They looked as if they regretted not meeting earlier and were incomparably enthusiastic. The old woman beside them was rather old-fashioned. She stood there expressionlessly until the end, looking at Chu Feng several times as if she was guarding against a big-tailed wolf. This made Chu Feng rather speechless. Chu Feng, you undid my sister's belt. Where's that secret treasure? The silver-haired little Lolita's speech was unclear as she shouted while eating. I'll return this to you. Chu Feng rummaged through the spatial bracelet. Then he broke out in cold sweat because there were quite a few belts inside. He had forgotten which one belonged to the third most beautiful woman in the starry skies. The silver-haired little Lolita's hands were swift. She grabbed them all in a short while and cried out, "So many belts for women. You pervert, you've done all sorts of bad things." At this moment, the vermilion bird fairy just happened to walk out. She was coming for Chu Feng and saw her belt in a glance. Behind her was Yuan Yuan from the Origin Demon race. These two had great origins and were also extremely high-ranking beauties. They stared at Chu Feng together. I still have things to do. Let's talk later. Chu Feng snatched a few special belts made of spirit-binding cords and stuffed them into the spatial bracelet. Then, he turned around and ran away. He wasn't prepared to deal with a few women at the same time. Even if he wanted to bury the hatchet and resolve misunderstandings, he had to do it one by one slowly. If they were all stuck together, he reckoned that something would happen and he would be attacked together. Brother, the first 3 volumes of the world's end near at hand, divine feet, and earth shrinking have been provided. The black yak saw him and transmitted his voice with a smile. Chu Feng was immediately delighted. He had the first 2 volumes of the world's end near at hand, and had also seized the first volume of Earth shrinking from the other saint children. These were the few famous speed-related techniques in the starry skies. If each of them was complete, it could be considered a divine technique. He wanted to study them all once and find an opportunity to verify them. He hoped to refine the essence of these techniques. At this moment, a divine glow appeared in Chu Feng's eyes as he swept his gaze over all the guests. He had always been on guard to prevent people from the outer realms from coming in and causing unnecessary casualties. That was because there were some truly top-notch young experts among those who had come this time, such as Yuan Shicheng, Ingwudi, the immortal Destiny Physique, the undead Silkworm Prince, and the Peacock Race's Jicheng. And this was just on the surface. There was no need to talk about those who were hiding their identities. His fiery eyes could see through all falsehoods. At this moment, he frowned. Could it be that something was really going to happen? He felt that the energy aura of some people was very odd. They looked very ordinary on the surface, but he could see clearly with his fiery eyes that their bodies were like big fireballs and also like the sun. They were very resplendent and contained terrifying energy. After the auction entered a heated stage, Chu Feng found an opportunity to turn his back to them and give them a good opportunity to make a move. And in the dark, he held the treasure he had seized from the Origin Magnetic Sacred Physique, the Divine Magnetic Mountain Seal. He was ready to launch an attack at any moment. This item was exceptionally rare and precious. It was mainly made of divine magnetism, and at the same time, there was also a portion of magnetic marrow attached to it. To domain researchers, this was equivalent to the most incisive weapon. It could control and strengthen domains, and it could even strengthen Origin magnetic energy. He had long since laid down a large number of Origin magnetic stones on this ship and modified the hull. This was to prevent people from the outer realms from causing trouble. Heavens, it's actually a deity relic, someone cried out in surprise. The auction had entered a climax. The essence bone bead left behind by the fallen saint of the deity race was called the deity relic. It was actually taken out for auction. It's a pity that the essence within this deity's relic has long since been absorbed. It's not very useful to us, but to the deity race, it has great commemorative significance. This is because deity relics are usually left behind by peerless saints after they fall. At this moment, the black yak opened his mouth and said, "This broken bead is useless. We found it on the corpse of an old man from the deity race when we were cleaning up the battlefield. It's just a souvenir. Who wants to bid? It's very cheap. The starting price is only 8 six-path reincarnation pills." Everyone was speechless and secretly cursed him for being too black-hearted. They knew that this was the starting price, prepared to cheat the deity race. The black yak said, "Is there no one who wants it? That's too bad. Then let's consider it an unsold item. I'll embed it on my combat boots later. Such a shiny bead is so pretty." What did this have to do with being pretty? Everyone cursed silently. How many supreme saints could there be in a race since ancient times? The relic was equivalent to the corpse of that saint. How could an orthodoxy like the deity race tolerate such humiliation from a foreign race, especially from the descendants of opponents they had wiped out and conquered? I'll participate in the auction. In the end, someone from the deity race opened his mouth on the interstellar network and bid 8 six-path reincarnation pills. This was definitely an offer made through clenched teeth and spitting blood. This immediately caused a sensation. It was also at this moment that Chu Feng sensed 3 of the people behind him moving while everyone was in high spirits due to the auction. One of them approached Chu Feng silently, like a hunter in the dark night. There were also people like the other bidders who displayed intense emotional fluctuations and shouted loudly. However, they had already inadvertently approached Chu Feng. There was also someone who accidentally spilled some of the red wine in his hand. He pretended to tidy up his appearance. but in reality, he had taken out a great killing weapon. It was a pile of violet heavenly thunder crystals, and he was about to blast it at Chu Feng. Buzz! In the blink of an eye, the big ship swayed. The domain runes were dense and isolated those people. A golden furnace appeared, all formed of golden runes, and it enveloped the three people within. Following which, they soared into the air in the blink of an eye. Along with the golden furnace, they stood towering in the sky, far away from the big ship. The three people were stunned, and their bodies froze. That was because they were trapped in the divine furnace constructed of domain runes and couldn't escape. The most terrifying thing was that one of the violet heavenly thunder crystals in one of their hands had exploded. Boom! The next moment, there was a huge explosion in the sky. The three people cried out miserably because several violet heavenly thunder crystals had exploded one after another. They couldn't escape in the narrow domain golden furnace and were engulfed by the terrifying energy. Later on, the golden furnace also disintegrated. One could see how powerful the energy was. The three people were instantly turned into bloody fragments and dismembered corpses. They had all been killed by the explosion. What's going on? What happened? Many people cried out in alarm, and chaos ensued. Great demon Chu has attacked us. Everyone, quickly resist, and let's escape together. Someone took advantage of the chaos to roar and bewitch people. Chu Feng understood that it was the other two people in the ball of fire he had his eyes on who were clamoring. They wanted to incite everyone to attack together. After all, there was still Ing Wudi, Yuan Shicheng, the immortal destiny physique, and a group of peerless young experts here. If they really fought to the death, they might be able to eliminate Chu Feng. Chu Feng opened his mouth, and his voice shook the Eastern Sea. Everyone, don't panic. They're just a few small fries. They wanted to disrupt the auction, and now they want to take advantage of the chaos to stir up trouble. There's no need to be alarmed. Please sit properly. I'll take them down. Buzz. It was at this time that people noticed a fiery divine furnace appear. It enveloped a man and a woman and carried them high into the sky. At this moment, Chu Feng held the divine magnetic mountain seal in his hand. His expression was cold as he stared at the sky and said, "You're courting death." He used all his methods to refine the two people in the sky with his domain. The woman screamed miserably and turned into ashes on the spot. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock because they sensed that she was an expert at the Cloud Eater realm. In the end, she couldn't even hold on for a moment before being eliminated. For a moment, everyone was extremely afraid of Chu Feng. There was also a black-robed young man in the fiery furnace constructed from domain runes. At this moment, he raised his head and roared. A pair of black wings appeared on his back and flapped fiercely. Black mist surged into the sky, and he was like a fallen angel as he erupted with boundless might. He's close to the golden body realm. This person is so terrifying. Someone was shocked when he saw the symbol on the black-robed man's sleeve. It was a pattern of a black spear piercing through the firmament. "Oh my God, he's a hunter from Sky Piercer," someone shouted in shock. Once these words were spoken, everyone trembled and felt a chill run down their spine. Sky Piercer was an assassination organization in the universe. It was also an incomparably powerful and terrifying orthodoxy with a long history. Its members were all assassins and called themselves hunters. Normally, they would indirectly offer all kinds of rewards to assassinate targets in order to temper themselves. There was no one in the entire starry sky who didn't know how terrifying they were. That was because they even dared to accept missions to assassinate saints. They dared to kill saints. Moreover, they were able to succeed and behead saints. This kind of battle record really terrified all the sections. Who wouldn't be afraid? Who wouldn't be afraid? Now, they had their eyes on Chu Feng. Someone had come to kill him. Moreover, it seemed that this person was led by a seed-rank hunter. As expected, this person was incomparably powerful. He didn't die in the fiery furnace and was still resisting. He wanted to rush out and stared coldly at Chu Feng. However, after several attempts, he failed and couldn't break out. Then, He raised his hand and revealed a bronze tablet. He waved it in front of Chu Feng with the word amnesty written on it. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. What does that mean? The big black yak didn't understand and couldn't help but ask. This is a seed rank hunter from Sky Piercer. That's a spirit tablet bestowed by the race's almighty. If they're captured, they can show this tablet and save their lives. Mother asterisk her, they came to assassinate us and still want to rely on a broken tablet to save their lives. What a big dream. The big black yak, Ouyang Feng, Old Donkey, and the others were all furious. The Almighty of Sky Piercer is the most terrifying existence in the universe. They can hunt down quasi-saints and assassinate saints. Someone said in a low voice, seeing this tablet should be considered as showing respect to the Almighty of Sky Piercer. Someone said, at this moment, the seed rank hunter who was trapped in the fiery furnace shook the bronze tablet in his hand again. His eyes were cold. Chapter 714. The fiery furnace glowed in the night sky. The hunter from Sky Piercer was trapped inside. Unfortunately, he didn't match his identity and had become the prey instead. He held the bronze plate in his hand and didn't say a word. He continued to stare coldly at Chu Feng. He was trapped there and suffering the domain rune suppression, but he didn't panic. On the contrary, he was indifferent as he stared intently at Chu Feng. You're still indifferent and silent. Are you forcing me? Chu Feng smiled, but it was a little cold. As for the big black yak, yellow ox, Ouyang Feng, and the others, their faces sank with anger. The most intuitive feeling they had was that this hunter was fearless. He came to assassinate, but he still had this attitude after being captured. The people from this organization were really insolent. Chu Feng made his move. As he held the divine magnetic mountain seal in his hand, it vibrated lightly. The runes on the big ship became increasingly concentrated, and all of them rushed up into the sky, merging into the fiery furnace. The hunter from the Sky Piercer still didn't open his mouth. Even though he was trapped high up in the sky, his eyes were like knives as he looked down at Chu Feng fiercely. Furthermore, he raised the bronze plate high up and placed it in front of him, as if he was warning and intimidating everyone in all directions. At this moment, the bronze plate turned dark red. Then blood flowed out. This is the Sky Piercer's bronze blood warning. If we let this person go, they can let bygones be bygones and terminate this mission. They won't plot to assassinate Chu Feng anymore. From then on, we'll go our separate ways, someone whispered. Big Black Yak asked, oh, isn't this considered admitting defeat? I want to ask, if he doesn't try to assassinate Chu Feng after we let him go, what about the other members of the Sky Piercer organization? I don't know. In any case, this seated contestant probably won't continue, someone said. Chu Feng sneered when he heard this kind of opinion and said, Sky Piercer, what a tyrannical organization. A bronze plate bestowed by an almighty being can ask the assassin to let bygones be bygones after the assassination failed. Moreover, they still have to be grateful to their organization. Boom! It was at this moment that Chu Feng shook the divine magnetic mountain seal, and the red body of the furnace in the sky became glaring. The domain runes were astonishing, and the flames inside were raging. Moreover, a large hand appeared in the middle of the furnace, and one could see that it was moving towards the black wings on the young hunter's back. People were astonished to find that Chu Feng was holding a seal with one hand and moving with the other. The domain runes of the divine furnace in the sky were moving in sync with his movements. Bang! The young hunter was struggling, his body was burning and trembling. At the same time, the wings on his back were grabbed by someone. Stop, he shouted. You finally spoke. Chu Feng sneered, but he remained unmoved. That hand continued to move, and in the end, the large hand in the fiery red furnace directly pulled at that pair of wings, about to pull them off. Chu Feng, I failed my mission this time. How about we call it a day? From now on, I'll never assassinate you again in this life. The young man's voice was very cold. Everyone revealed strange expressions. The people from the Sky Piercer were getting more and more difficult to deal with. No one knew where their nest was, and this was one of the reasons why they could intimidate all the major evolutionary sections. Now, a seed-level expert was helpless against Chu Feng. His assassination had failed, and he had even admitted defeat. This was astonishing. Just when many people thought that Chu Feng might be moved, he indeed moved. However, only that hand was moving. With a puff, he forcibly tore off the black wings of the young man imprisoned in the furnace, and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, the young hunter from a Sky Piercer was like a fallen angel. He suddenly raised his head, and his black hair danced in the wind. His eyes were terrifying like black holes as he roared incessantly. Chu Feng, he roared angrily. Chu Feng responded coldly. He was incomparably calm as he said, "Who do you think you are? After coming to assassinate me, you still dare to put on such an attitude. I, your grandfather Chu, have even killed the saint of the deity race on the heavenly vine. Why would I be afraid of a creature like you who can't see the light and can only walk in the dark?" Many people cried out in surprise. No one had expected Chu Feng to be so straightforward and incomparably powerful. He directly tore off the wings of this hunter, who was close to the golden Arhut level. They could see that the furnace was dripping with blood, and that young man was growling and snarling. His eyes were incomparably gloomy and cold as he stared at Chu Feng. The hand that was holding the bronze plate was clenched so tightly that it had already turned blue. At this moment, many people cried out in alarm, following which the Black Yak, the Manchurian Tiger, and Zhou Quan also reacted. That was because someone was looking at the photon computer. They moved closer and discovered the source of the problem. "There's an old man stirring up trouble." The Black Yak indicated to Chu Feng to look at the Origin Beast platform. At this moment, the starry skies weren't calm anymore. It was completely shaken. When a Sky Piercer made a move, which time wasn't there a rain of blood and foul winds? It made every race apprehensive. The number of saints they had killed wasn't just one or two, and it represented blood-red terror. Some people said that they were even more terrifying than the 10 greats from before, because you would never know when they would appear and give you a fatal blow. At this moment, there was a terrifying person making comments on the Origin Beast platform. This was an old man whose entire body was covered in a black robe. His face wasn't revealed, and the Sky Piercer's insignia was embedded on his sleeves. A black spear pierced through the firmament. Other than that, there was a golden moon on his sleeves. It was very curved and dripping with blood. This represented his identity, the quasi-saint of the Sky Piercer. "Chu Feng, I'll give you one last chance. Let go of the person from my Sky Piercer. He has failed his mission this time and will never assassinate you again from now on." A quasi-saint Dark Hunter would make even saints apprehensive and incomparably fearful. That was because they didn't act according to common sense and would never fight head-on, making it impossible to guard against them. "He has failed. What about the others from your organization? Will they come again?" asked the Black Yak. Meanwhile, Chu Feng was very calm and didn't speak. The quasi-saint Dark Hunter responded indifferently and said, "If there are still people offering a bounty and the price is high enough, the others from my organization can accept the mission. I won't give you any promises here." Heh. Chu Feng was laughing. His words were full of coldness. He didn't say anything and directly began to attack. That was because this organization was too arrogant and tyrannical. They actually dared to say such things to him. Within the red furnace, the large hand formed from domain runes was moving. It tore apart the young assassin's arm, causing blood to splatter everywhere. At the same time, the falling black feather was burned by the furnace and turned into ashes. "Ah!" The young man howled within the red furnace. At this moment, his right arm had been torn off. His face was incomparably pale, and for the first time, he revealed a panicked expression. However, his bones were indeed very hard. He still didn't beg for mercy. "Chu Feng, you're going against the good intentions of a dark saint. You must die." At this moment, the old man on the Origin Beast platform said coldly, "You're nothing." This was Chu Feng's response. In a split second, the entire Origin Beast platform flared up. Countless people were watching. They were all greatly moved to see that Chu Feng dared to unyieldingly contradict a dark saint from the Sky Piercer. How many of them would dare to be so unyielding? They would definitely be incomparably fearful when encountering such a thing. Chu Feng, I'll give you one last chance. Let him go, and I can let you die with dignity, the old man shrouded in a black robe said coldly on the Origin Beast platform. Obviously, he was very fond of this seed-rank hunter and was still trying to carry out a final rescue. Of course, he also knew that it was impossible for Chu Feng to change his mind. Therefore, his conditions were very harsh. At this moment, the Dark Saint was actually very conflicted. You're long-winded. Also, you're sick. This was Chu Feng's response. He didn't care in the slightest and didn't give the Dark Saint any face. The old man shrouded in a black robe said coldly, "From now on, no one will entrust the Sky Piercer to kill you. We'll hunt you down until your body and soul are completely destroyed. This is a promise." All the guests trembled as they paid attention to the Origin Beast platform and looked at Chu Feng. A demon was going up against a terrifying orthodoxy. This was going to be interesting. Sky Piercer, who do you think you are? You, Chu Feng, dare to fight against evolvers all over the sky. In one battle, I annihilated the alliance formed by hundreds of evolver sects and killed over 9,000 experts. Why would I be afraid of an organization that can't see the light of day? So what if I add you to the mix? Chu Feng was disdainful. He challenged them directly with coldness and arrogance. On the Origin Beast platform, the Dark Saint's gaze was cold. Everyone was horrified. It was as though they could feel the boundless killing intent through the interstellar network. Your grandpa, Chu Feng, even annihilated the deity race, the Shilin clan, and the Netherworld race. What is there to be arrogant about your Sky Piercer? You're just rats hiding in a cave and can't see the light of day. If you dare to provoke me, I'll annihilate you all. Such a domineering declaration shocked everyone. As expected of the great demon Chu, he's not even afraid of the Sky Piercer. Amazing. This is very Chu Feng. Many people sighed. Now, I'll add another auction item. A seed-level killer from the Sky Piercer. Who wants it? Shouted Chu Feng. What's the base price? Asked the Black Yak. 1,000 six-path reincarnation pills and 1,000 drops of hellish and elixir. Chu Feng said calmly. Everyone understood that he was humiliating the Sky Piercer. This was a declaration that he dared to auction off a seed-level contestant from the Sky Piercer. What was there to fear? He was going to fight to the death. Chu Feng, you're very stupid. Even a god can't save you, said the Dark Saint coldly. Boom. Chu Feng activated the red furnace and let out a blood-curdling screech. The wingless young man, who was like a fallen angel, struggled mournfully, but it was useless. He was burned, broken inch by inch in the raging flames, and turned into charcoal. It was as if doomsday was being judged. This man died tragically in the sky, and everything came to an end when the furnace finally disintegrated. Chu Feng, you've provoked someone you shouldn't have. We're kings and saints who walk in the darkness. You're finished, said the old man whose entire body was covered in darkness angrily. I also want to tell you guys that you've provoked someone you shouldn't have. Kings and saints of darkness are nothing. Your grandpa Chu is the ancestor of darkness. Do you guys think you're very strong in assassination? Your grandpa Chu can still wipe out people from all walks of life by myself. My actions are more efficient than yours. Otherwise, there wouldn't be this grand auction. Look at you guys. You're just hiding in a cave and can't see the light. What great things can you accomplish? This was undisguised humiliation and mockery. Following that, Chu Feng shouted again. Tonight, whoever wins the auction must give me a piece of information about the Sky Piercer in addition to the cosmic dollars they originally received. I'm going to destroy them. He added, Deity race, you guys have to set an example. Since your inheritance is so long, you guys should know more. If you give me the information, I'll give you a discount and charge you one less six-path reincarnation pill. Yes, other people also have this discount. Otherwise, with the deity race as an example, don't even think about getting that deity relic. I'll throw it into the latrine. If other organizations don't cooperate, I'll chop up your saints one by one." In a split second, the entire starry sky was momentarily silent. This guy was truly a terrifying demon. At this moment, many people truly believe that he was even more terrifying than the people from the Sky Piercer. He wants to mobilize the power of every race. He wants to drag out the Sky Piercer and then target them to the end. Someone whispered. Chapter 7:15. Chu Feng was targeting the Sky Piercer. He wanted to single-handedly challenge this hunting organization that walked in the darkness and shake the starry skies against this colossus. His performance was extremely powerful. He was completely unafraid of the Dark Saint's threat and gave the most direct response. He refined a seed-rank hunter from this orthodoxy in front of everyone. At the same time, many people realized that he was kidnapping deities, celestials, netherworld races, and other races. This night was destined to be restless. Chu Feng challenged a terrifying assassin's palace. His declaration and behavior moved many people, and they remained silent for a long time. Ignorant native of Earth, you don't know anything. You will regret not respecting the kings and saints of the Dark Realm. The consequences you will face will be very miserable. Sometimes, you'll find that this kind of misery is 10 times or even 100 times more terrifying than death. The quasi-saint Dark Hunter's hoarse, demonic voice came from behind the black robe. Then, his black hole-like eyes swept across and ended the conversation. Chu Feng replied, "I have some words for you. Choosing the wrong opponent will be the sorrow of your life. The so-called Sky Piercer is destined to fall apart, and the so-called divine land of killers and holy lands will be annihilated in the end." The Dark Saint didn't reply and decisively disappeared from the Origin Beast platform, leaving behind a string of bone-chilling cold laughter. He left with a look of disdain and contempt. As he saw it, Chu Feng was too weak, not to mention threatening their ancient orthodoxy that had existed for countless years. Even if they were to casually dispatch a Golden Arhat-level hunter, they could easily annihilate Chu Feng. In reality, from the perspective of everyone in the starry skies, Chu Feng was walking on a tightrope. It was fine if he hadn't left Earth, but once he did, he would face endless dark hunters. No matter how strong he was, could he avoid one accident after another? Assassins were the most terrifying. They didn't compete with you in terms of true strength and would deliver a fatal blow at the critical moment. This matter caused a huge uproar on the Origin Beast platform, and all races were in heated discussion. The storm was fermenting and engulfing all the major platforms. Many evolutionary sects were already aware of this, and even many veteran experts revealed strange expressions. They felt that Chu Feng was too crazy. For so many years, no one had ever dared to challenge the Sky Piercer on their own because that would be courting death. An organization that could even kill saints, how terrifying was that? They were a colossus. The most frightening thing was that it was rumored that there was a heaven illuminator behind the organization, and it was likely to be an extremely ancient existence. This was also the reason why all races were afraid. Once an ancient heaven illuminator rose in revolt, it would be unimaginable. Of course, this was only a guess. No one could confirm whether there was such an evolver behind them. It was to the extent that conspiracy theorists believed that this was the dark side of one of the 10 Greats, a hunting organization that they had supported. There were also people who said that the organization was another business department of the behemoth, known as the Wormhole Express Company. Of course, there were also people who said that it was a branch of a superstar sect in the broken universe in the primal chaos. In fact, the more they knew, the dark organization, the more they understood. For so many years, no dynasty or powerful race had been able to uproot them. This already explained the problem. After such a ruckus, the atmosphere of the auction was somewhat strange and subtle. Although many people thought that Chu Feng was very valiant and powerful, there were also some who felt that his prospects weren't good. Offending the Sky Piercer might be a dead end. Everyone, I need your immediate feedback. I want news about the Sky Piercer. When the auction was halfway through, Chu Feng spoke and urged the people participating in the auction. Of course, this was a private message. The Black Yak even threatened them one by one. If they didn't decisively send back valuable information, he would stab their living saint children on the spot. Then, Old Donkey put on an act and tidied up his formal attire. He was in charge of contacting the deity race privately and said with a solemn expression, "Hee-haw, hee-haw. Respected deity race buyer, your goods have been packed and will soon be sent to the Sky Piercer Express Company. Please pay immediately tonight and provide details about the Sky Piercer. Otherwise, the delivery will be terminated and it will be discarded into the latrine as defective goods. We attach great importance to the quality of the goods and the user. Please cooperate, thank you." The old man in charge of the auction from the deity race stared at Old Donkey through the interstellar network. If he could make a move, he would strangle this donkey. No matter what, they wouldn't allow the deity relic to be disgraced. At this moment, the Manchurian Tiger, Ouyang Feng, and Zhou Quan weren't idle either. They were in charge of contacting the Shilin clan, Damung Pure Land, and Netherworld race. For a moment, an undercurrent was surging. The silver-haired Lolita, Ing Xiao Xiao, moved closer to Chu Feng and said, "You've encountered big trouble. The Sky Piercer is very savage, and the waters behind it are very deep. Under normal circumstances, even our quasi-saint race wouldn't easily make a move against them." Ing Zhixian also came over. She was 120 worried about her younger sister. This little fellow's words often shocked the world and caused trouble for both her older sister and brother. She was really worried about her. Chu Feng nodded slightly at them in greeting. He naturally understood how terrifying this colossus from the Dark Realm was. Even if he didn't understand it in the past, he could deduce it from their words and actions today. These hunters who walked in the darkness were incomparably conceited and even overly domineering. After being captured, a dark saint actually appeared and directly ordered him to release them. How tyrannical was this? They had an attitude of supremacy, and an oppressive aura assaulted him head-on. Ever since Chu Feng embarked on the path of evolution, he had never knelt before. How could he tolerate a dark organization bossing him around and giving him such a domineering order? Even if the Sky Piercer was very terrifying, it didn't matter to Chu Feng. He had even offended the 10 Greats. So why would he be afraid of an assassin organization that was eyeing him? Bring it on. If you're not satisfied, then fight. At this time, Yuan Shiqing also walked over. As the #1 person of the Origin Demon race's younger generation, his identity and background were naturally extremely shocking and attracted the attention of everyone. His younger sister, the 10th most beautiful woman under the starry skies, Yuan, also followed. She had a charming smile on her face, and her black dress made her snow-white skin seem even more sparkling and translucent. "Do you need us to step in and help you talk some peace?" Yuan Shiqing was a fine-looking man with his own bearing and a gentle smile. He came from the Origin Demon race, but he didn't emit any demonic nature. He was an elegant and fine young master with a face like jade. Needless to say, Yuan had a graceful figure and moving curves. She was enchanting and breathtaking, and her charm was natural. She smiled faintly and said, "We can help you resolve it." This was naturally roping Chu Feng in. They had taken a fancy to Chu Feng's potential. Chu Feng's recent performance had long since attracted the attention of the 10 Greats. He could suppress someone with the myriad star physique and capture someone with the innocuous divine physique and the Origin magnetic sacred physique alive. It was impossible for the orthodoxies not to be shaken. The divine physique, sacred physique, and myriad star physique were invincible physiques in normal times. They possessed unrivaled bloodlines, and any one of them would become an overlord when they were born. But in this era, they were in the same era, yet they were suppressed by Chu Feng in the end. Such a comparison was too shocking. So much so that some people had already asserted that Chu Feng might be another invincible character under the starry skies on this ancient planet after Yao Yao. He was an evildoer who could look down on many eras, and once he matured, it would be difficult to meet his match. This was also the reason why the deity race and the Shilin clan didn't hesitate to join forces with many evolutionary sects to kill Chu Feng. They were worried. Chu Feng expressed his gratitude for their goodwill, but he absolutely wouldn't kneel to the Sky Piercer. If they weren't satisfied, then they could fight. It wasn't a big deal. Not long after, Yuan's expression became somewhat unnatural. Not long ago, she had tried to contact the Sky Piercer, but now she had received feedback that this darkness obstructed her proposal and clearly told her that Chu Feng must be killed. Even if Chu Feng were to pay the price of blood and kneel on the ground to beg for forgiveness, he still wouldn't be forgiven. He has offended our dignity. This was the Sky Piercer's response. Chu Feng smiled, but it was somewhat cold. He clearly told Yuan and Yuan Shurcheng not to say anything more. He didn't need them to pull strings. Offend their dignity? Next, I'll stomp their faces into the ground and ruthlessly crush them, Chu Feng said calmly. In fact, he knew that the Origin Demon race had probably guessed this result. They just wanted to sell him a favor and let him know that they had pulled strings for him. Chu Feng, I just learned how terrifying this dark organization is through the discussions of others. This is an assassin organization that has existed in the starry sky since ancient times. It's best that you don't leave Earth rashly. Jiang Luoshan walked over and suggested this to him. She clearly revealed a trace of worry. Vudra and Silver Wing also appeared. They also believed that staying on Earth, which hadn't been unsealed, was the safest. Chu Feng smiled. He himself wasn't worried. In the distance, many evolvers saw him so calm and sighed inwardly. This person's heart was really big. If it were someone else, they would have long since been filled with worry. Chu Feng, there's important news. At this moment, the old Lama secretly transmitted his voice. One of the evolutionary sects he was in charge of had actually sent them an extremely shocking piece of news. This news came from the Pegasus race. They had requested again and again that it must be kept secret and that they couldn't be exposed. Even if they were told that they were the ones who provided it, they wouldn't admit it. Some races were extremely hostile toward the Sky Piercer because they had been assassinated before. For example, the Pegasus race possessed quasi-divine beast blood and was known as one of the races with the fastest speed in the universe. Decades ago, a quasi-saint from this race was famous for his research on the speed of time. He dominated his peers and was on the verge of becoming a saint, but in the end, he was killed by the Sky Piercer. There were still a few similar cases, so these races wanted to provide information to Chu Feng. They were prepared to sit on top of the mountain and watch the tigers fight. If this news is true, then it's not simple. The big black yak also came over and whispered. That was because the Pegasus race's information was that the Sky Piercer had already entered Earth and was going to build a branch. They valued this recovering ancient planet very much. This dark organization believed that even if this planet couldn't be dominated by the natives, it would certainly shine brilliantly in the hands of the major evolutionary sects in the outer realms and become an important place. Therefore, they also wanted to participate and secretly control a famed mountain. They would build a youth training camp here and nurture the younger generation of hunters so that they could evolve and grow together with this planet. Mount Wanwu, Chu Feng revealed an odd expression. This organization was very powerful and valued this famous heavenly paradise. However, they did it very covertly. They secretly supported a power that could stand in the light, and the assassin youth training camp was hidden in the depths of the heavenly paradise. The old Lama informed. Those people from the Sky Piercer have already entered Earth and are building a branch. The personnel are already in place. This was the most crucial information. A group of dark hunters was on Earth. Chu Feng smiled very brilliantly. It was really like someone delivering a pillow just when he was dozing off. He really wanted to immediately attack this organization with boundless killing intent. He hoped to destroy one of their branches as soon as possible. Now, he unexpectedly found out that this group of people had already arrived. Moreover, there were many people in the youth training camp. All of them were hunters with great potential. They wanted to grow together with this recovering planet and were a group of people that were focused on nurturing. I'll take action overnight. I'll directly challenge them and then announce to the public that the deity race told me the news, said Chu Feng. That's what we should do. We'll let the deity race take the blame and return the favor to the Pegasus race. The Pegasus race really hates the Sky Piercer to the bone and has been watching them for decades. Earth is special. All the evolutionary sects are at the same starting line and have just entered. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to discover this dark organization. When the auction was once again at its most heated stage, Chu Feng quietly left and didn't let anyone follow him. He wanted to sweep through a Sky Piercer branch alone. It was also on this night that the organization, the Sky Piercer, announced to the public on the official platform through which they accepted business that Chu Feng was wanted in the entire universe and that they were about to launch a crazy hunting operation. They announced to the public that even if Chu Feng were to kneel at their feet now, he would still die without any dignity. They wouldn't give him any chance and had already written his name on the death ledger with a red judge's pen until he died tragically. At this moment, Chu Feng had already set off on his journey alone with a long blade on his back. He crossed the eastern sea and ran thousands of miles under the moonlit night. He arrived on land at lightning speed and headed straight for Mount Wanwu. Chapter 7:16. The moonlight was like water. Chu Feng wasn't far away. After the upheaval, the earth had become incomparably vast, and its surface area had increased rapidly. But with his current speed, it wasn't a big deal, especially since he had the green bamboo boat as a means of transportation. He quickly crossed the sea and entered the depths of the land, approaching Mount Wanwu. Something big was bound to happen tonight. The moonlight shone on the mountain forest, covering the entire mountain range in silver splendor. The high mountains, waterfalls, and great rivers all had a hazy halo and appeared divine. Mount Wanwu was in sight. Since ancient times, there have been many legends about this place. It was known as the first heavenly paradise. Late at night, the mountain forest wasn't tranquil. Wild beasts were howling and strange beasts from folded space were snarling. One could see a bird of prey spreading its wings like a black cloud, blotting out the starlight and casting a large shadow on the ground. This was a primitive landscape. Mount Wanwu had merged with the folded space and was no longer the same as before. Chu Feng had arrived in the middle of the night with a cold, murderous intent on his face. He held a large banner in his right hand that emitted a misty, bloody light. It was incomparably bewitching. It was the divine blood banner. This was a great killing weapon. Tonight, he didn't come to chat and laugh, but to start a massacre and suppress the branch established by the so-called Dark Hegemon. He didn't care about the Sky Piercer. Since they were already opposing each other, he would fight to the end and kill. In Chu Feng's mind, the other party had already declared war against him. Therefore, he wouldn't show any mercy. He would go all out and use all methods to kill the other party. At this time, even if he came alone, he would still regard this battle as a war. This was a battle between one man and a dark orthodoxy. In the night, his killing intent was restrained as he strode forward in the mountain forest without making a sound. He was like a ferocious tiger in charge of killing in the primordial era, about to begin hunting in the heavens. Chu Feng was tall and had the appearance of an adult. His long black hair hung loosely over his shoulders, and his eyes were abstruse. All of the killing intent was hidden in the depths of his eyes. He didn't want to alarm the troops of this dark orthodoxy's branch in advance. He wanted to approach like a hunter and use their methods to slaughter and exterminate the youth training camp and the veteran assassins here. On Mount Wanwu, there were spiritual peaks one after another. Purple mist rose, and there was a faint aura of a hidden dragon rising to the heavens. Standing on this piece of land, looking at the place that was full of brilliant lights and shockingly dense energy, Chu Feng narrowed his eyes, carefully listening and sensing. In the distance, ferocious birds and ferocious beasts roared. There was a tens of meters long demonic ape standing on a mountain and roaring at the moon. There were also silver ferocious birds killing mammoths in the folded space. Deep in the night, this heavenly paradise was very hazy, but also very holy. However, the mountain forest also carried the smell of blood. This was very good. It was beneficial for Chu Feng to get close, and it would be convenient for him to assassinate and sweep through this place. He entered the restricted area of Mount Wanwu and was slightly lost in thought. Back then, when the world began to change, this place was attacked by the master of Bo Palace, one of the three great mutant organizations. After that, Chu Feng didn't pay attention to it anymore. He didn't know what happened after the killer organization took over here. In addition, there was a secret realm on Mount Wanwu where the ancient remnant races lived. However, even if the people from Skypiercer rushed here, they wouldn't necessarily dare to enter the secret realm. After all, the world hadn't completely recovered, and it was very difficult for people at the Golden Arhut realm to enter. There were most likely experts of that level in the secret realm. Chu Feng searched for a long time, but he couldn't find the entrance to the secret realm. I hope the people in the secret realm are fine, he muttered to himself. After all, when he fought with the divine son of heaven in Kunlun, the remnant races of Mount Wanwu and the Himalayas had stood on his side and helped him. Under the moonlight, Chu Feng was like a lone wolf with a chilly aura. He barged into this area alone and entered the restricted area of Mount Wanwu. Very soon, he saw some skeletons that belonged to humans. He didn't know how many months they had been dead. His gaze trembled. The clothes and relics on the skeletons all proved that these were native evolvers, humans born on Earth. The people from Bo Palace have all been annihilated. Chu Feng made this judgment because there were some communication devices among the relics that belonged to the three mutant organizations. In the depths of Mount Wanwu was a vast mountain with ancient trees and a silver waterfall hanging down. It was extremely magnificent under the moonlight, yet it didn't lose its elegance. He saw houses and human figures. They were definitely not native evolvers from the outer realm because they had bat-like wings. This was a branch of the winged race and could be considered a very strong race. They had wings made of flesh, and when they spread them, they could soar into the sky and burrow into the earth. Moreover, their bodies were powerful, and they liked to tear evolvers of the same level apart in battle. It's the winged race's silver wing branch. Chu Feng gradually understood the races in the universe and recognized their identity. Comparatively speaking, the silver wing branch's reputation wasn't bad. They weren't bloodthirsty, but their combat strength was very strong. Once they were angered, they wouldn't rest until the opponent was dead. As expected, they found a race that can stand in the light to cover for us. Chu Feng was seething with killing intent. Since this silver wing branch was standing together with Skypiercer and could be considered an external force, there was nothing to be apprehensive about. He would kill them all the same. However, he didn't attack immediately. His main target was that group of dark hunters. Chu Feng moved forward like an experienced lone wolf. He traversed the mountain forest and avoided this group of people. The divine blood banner in his hand was emitting a terrifying aura. In the depths of Mount Wanwu, the energy density was extremely shocking. As expected, there was something strange about it. A domain had been laid down, and there were ghost-like figures hiding in the darkness. Their breathing technique was very special. It was as though they had condensed into one with the mountains and rivers. Nothing could be seen on the surface, but there were sun-like balls of light within their bodies. Ordinary people couldn't sense their true strength because they could conceal themselves very well. Apparently, the heavenly horse race didn't lie. The information was reliable and true. There was indeed a group of Skypiercer troops hiding here. Chu Feng circulated the robbery induction breathing technique and closed his body's vitality. He stared at them and also merged into the darkness. He roamed about here and was looking for the strongest expert here. The divine blood banner was prepared for that person. Otherwise, he wouldn't expose this weapon so easily under normal circumstances. Even with Chu Feng's rare divine instincts on Earth, he had to observe for a long time before he sensed a wave that was so weak that it was almost non-existent. Only after a long time did he discover an old man lying in seclusion in the forest. He didn't attack. He frowned and sensed again. Before long, he discovered two existences with astonishing strength similar to that old man. There were three veteran killers close to the Golden Arhut realm. Moreover, they far surpassed the others at this level. The energy flames within their bodies were actually incomparably vigorous. It was just that they didn't leak out. As expected, Skypiercer attached great importance to this place and was about to make a big move. After that, Chu Feng silently began to put down magnetic stones in the distant mountain forest. He was laying down a domain and wasn't prepared to let a single one of them escape. Time was of the essence. He didn't have the time to lay down a complex large-scale domain, but it was enough to stop these people. Apart from the 3 old men, there were 70 to 80 people. Most of them were young, with astonishing talents. All of them were good saplings. It was obvious that the young hunters who could come to the land of recovery were elites valued by Skypiercer. They were given the opportunity to rapidly evolve here. That was because Earth was very special. It was currently recovering and was a treasure land in the eyes of the young evolvers of various races. I'll send you on your way. Finally, Chu Feng moved. He was like a specter as he soundlessly approached the location of an old man. After that, he suddenly launched an attack. In his hands, the divine blood banner was used as a spear. He let the banner flutter as he held it with both hands and stabbed toward that target. It had to be said that the veteran hunter dispatched by Skypiercer was too powerful and incomparably sharp. He actually sensed Chu Feng's aura at the critical moment and quickly evaded. The main reason was because he was a hunter who walked in the darkness. He was most proficient in various methods in the field of assassination and had detected it on the spot. At the same time, his own strength was really too outstanding. He could be considered one of the Skypiercer's gold medal old masters at the Transformation Realm who had specially come here to build a youth training camp. He had evaded this fatal attack by a hair's breadth, which greatly surprised Chu Feng. However, Chu Feng had long since been prepared. He used one of his strongest methods. A stone cave appeared on his left hand and formed a terrifying black vortex that almost sucked the old man in. This was because Chu Feng had a contingency plan and had judged the direction in which the old man would evade in advance. He followed up the instant his attack missed. The old assassin's expression changed, and a divine radiance erupted from his gloomy and cold eyes. He was like a giant rock that wanted to fly into the sky and escape first. However, that stone cave was really too terrifying. It affected his speed and created an excellent opportunity for Chu Feng. The divine blood banner in Chu Feng's hand swept over, and the fluttering banner directly covered that area. One had to know that this wasn't a real spear, but a terrifying banner. The old man was horrified. The blood banner had just approached, and all the essence and blood in his body had evaporated. It was too terrifying. Bang! The next moment, his whole body erupted with light, and all kinds of trump cards were unleashed. However, many of his weapons were swallowed by that stone cave and were meaningless. The banner's surface covered him and caused him to wither all of a sudden. His blood and chi frantically poured out as he couldn't withstand this kind of devouring. Bang! At the same time, Chu Feng used his spiritual energy to activate the divine blood banner, while his right hand used the Yang realm's divine technique. Lightning Fist. A burst of energy boiled and light erupted. The old assassin's body was pierced and covered by the blood banner. In an instant, he shriveled up and let out a mournful howl. He exploded with a bang and died a violent death. With a swoosh, Chu Feng put away the divine blood banner and exchanged it for the reincarnation blade. He pounced in another direction as if he was flying to kill his second target. However, he was very dissatisfied. When he killed the first person, he actually didn't kill him in one strike and instead alerted the enemy. However, he wasn't afraid. He had just successfully crossed the tribulation and his strength had greatly improved. It was time to test himself. A sharp whistling sound rang out and the entire area churned. All the assassins came out to search for the intruder. Bang! When those people found out, Chu Feng was already fighting with the second old man. The battle was fierce, and the terrifying scarlet blade light tore apart the tranquility of the night. The third powerful old assassin was naturally alarmed and rushed to the rescue at lightning speed. He turned into a black light and pounced over. He wanted to besiege, and kill Chu Feng together. At the same time, the others finally saw Chu Feng. Even if they were assassins and ruthless people who knew how to control their emotions, there were still some young hunters who were shocked and even cried out, "It's actually him, Chu Feng." They couldn't help but be shocked. Not long ago, Chu Feng annihilated the seed-level hunters of their organization in the East Sea and even angrily rebuked the Dark Saint. Moreover, there was an order coming from the starry sky. They were told to lay low and wait for orders. They were to wait for reinforcements at any time and hunt down Chu Feng together. How could they have imagined that in such a short time, Chu Feng would sneak here without anyone knowing and take the initiative to launch an attack on them? And all of this happened on the same night. Kill. At this moment, Chu Feng broke out and went all out. Since there was no need to hide, his aura was as turbulent as the sea. His blood and qi were boiling like volcanic magma, violently sweeping out. The lightning fist cut through the sky. The light of the samsara blade seemed to make heaven and earth fall silent. Puff! An old man's head flew into the air, and his corpse lay on the ground. A group of people who had rushed up to assassinate Chu Feng also fell to the ground. Heads flew out one after the other, and blood splattered in all directions. The commotion here was so great that the entire Mount Wanwu was alarmed. Under the night moon, Chu Feng was like a great devil, extremely cold. The blade light was dazzling, and the fist print was magnificent and majestic, killing in all directions. He rushed all the way, and corpses appeared under his feet one after another. Blood splattered everywhere. Those who were cut by the samsara blade melted in a short time, and those who were hit by the fist print were torn apart, their body parts flying everywhere. Chapter 717. This group of dark hunters was being hunted down. This was a one-sided massacre. The stench of blood in the forest was pungent as corpses fell one after another. Chu Feng moved like a bolt of lightning. Wherever he passed, these killers were harvested like crops. There were no living souls under the reincarnation blade, and no complete corpses before the lightning fist. Miserable screams rose and fell one after another. Chu Feng's killing methods were too terrifying as he pushed his way through. The Sky Piercer's Earth Branch suffered a destructive blow at this moment. Chu Feng, Demon Chu. Behind him, the old man with disheveled hair chased after him with all his might. However, he couldn't keep up with Chu Feng's speed and could only see his afterimage. Chu Feng moved unhindered in this area, constantly sweeping across and killing in all directions. Even though these people were killers who walked in the dark all year round, they were still terrified. They had never seen such a demonic person. A dark red, long blade burst forth with blade light. It was incomparably magnificent and penetrated the heavens and the earth. As it swept across, there were bound to be people cut into two and sent flying. The demon's fist was even more terrifying with vigorous energy. Under this fist, those so-called young elites, even the outstanding ones who had advanced to the Cloud Eater realm, were shaken to the point of spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. Their arms were broken and their bodies were cracked, leaving bloody scars all over. Bang! Under the lightning fist, another young expert was torn into pieces and sent flying in all directions, bringing with it a large rain of blood. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and its silver splendor sprinkled down. The entire mountainous area was very gentle, as if it was covered by a thin layer of smoke. However, the stench of blood was too pungent and destroyed the plain and misty scenery and mood. Chu Feng, you will pay the price in blood for this. Death is not your end. You will sink into the darkness, suffer boundless pain, and struggle in the torment of time. A middle-aged killer cursed because he was in complete despair. When Chu Feng chopped off his arm, he saved himself by chopping off his shoulder. In the end, his chest was penetrated by Chu Feng's fist. His body cracked like porcelain and was on the verge of disintegration. As expected, after he roared angrily, he no longer existed with a pop. Under the moonlight, the silver waterfalls, green pines, and small streams were originally harmonious and tranquil, beautiful and full of a holy aura. But now, everything had changed. Even though they were assassins who spent most of their time in the dark, when they saw how domineering Chu Feng was and how he was like a devilish god, drenched in their blood and taking their lives, they were terrified. Some of them even began to tremble. Who were the darkness hunters? Who were the race that was proficient in assassination? Now, everything was reversed. They had already received orders and understood the latest situation. The person who was to be assassinated and beheaded by them killed his way over that very night. He plowed through the enemy's nest and slaughtered them. It was simply unimaginable. There were a total of 3 old gold medal instructors. In the end, 2 of them were killed by Chu Feng the moment they came up. One had to know that they were close to the golden body level. As for the others, they weren't a match at all. 6 of those middle-aged instructors had already died, and they were practically exterminated. As for the young elites, disciples who were considered to have great potential and talent, more than 60 of them had died in such a short period of time. They were slaughtered by Chu Feng almost as soon as they met face to face. They were violently killed. At this time, Chu Feng had become a true devilish god. The scarlet spots on his body were all the blood of his enemies. As long as he attacked, he would take their lives and wipe out this assassin organization's branch. A young assassin collapsed. He was 16 or 17 years old with great potential and astonishing talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been sent to this recovering planet. On this night, he saw Chu Feng's monstrous murderous aura. He saw the indifference and ruthlessness in his eyes, and he also witnessed his iron-blooded methods. At this moment, a few youths threw down their weapons and turned to flee. They howled as their beliefs collapsed. They were once proud hunters, but today they had actually been reduced to cattle and sheep. They were being slaughtered at will and had no power to resist. This made these youths despair. The expressions of the others changed. From the beginning until now, even if they couldn't defeat Chu Feng, these people were still lying in ambush and looking for opportunities to assassinate him. But now, some of them were terrified. Their reactions were really different from their usual training. Chu Feng, hand over your life, roared the gold medal old instructor. He was bristling with anger. He was an assassin, so he was supposed to hide in the dark and give the enemy a fatal blow. But now he couldn't calm down. His grandson had died under Chu Feng's blade. He had been chasing from behind, but he couldn't keep up with his opponent's speed. Those who kill will always be killed. This was Chu Feng's response. Since this group of cold-blooded assassins had received orders to target him and his friends, then there was nothing more to say. They had to be slaughtered and beheaded cleanly. Bang! A blade light soared like thunder. The sound was terrifying, and the light was glaring. It was as if the firmament had been split open. At this moment, Chu Feng was facing the old man and killing his way over. During this process, a few more people lost their lives. Some of their heads flew into the air, while others were sliced in half. They fell to the ground while carrying large amounts of blood, and then they melted. In reality, Skypiercer's troops exceeded Chu Feng's expectations. There weren't 70 or 80 people. There was actually a group of troops that had killed their way out of the underground palace. There were more than 150 people in total. The blade and rapier attacked the other party at the same time. Chu Feng encountered this old man. He had killed almost all the people in the vicinity, so he fixed his eyes on the last gold medal old instructor who was still a threat. Chi, chi, chi. The old man attacked craftily. His sword chi surged like a viper attacking. From time to time, he would give a fatal kiss. Moreover, he kept disappearing and hiding in the void. He had many assassination methods that emerged in an endless stream. He was a ruthless character that was very difficult to deal with. There was no doubt that this person had too much experience in the domain of the killing Tao. He was an executioner who specialized in killing or living for the sake of killing. If he was on the battlefield and in the midst of an army of 10,000, perhaps his performance would be average. But in a one-on-one situation, the energy he released was dangerous and incomparably terrifying. Unfortunately, he had encountered Chu Feng. Regardless of whether it was a one-on-one battle or a group battle, Chu Feng's current strength was frighteningly shocking. Clang! He cut off the other party's rapier and soared into the sky like a flood dragon. He slashed out dozens of times in succession, forcing the old man to dodge quickly. He disappeared in the void several times. Die! However, following Chu Feng's final shout, he slashed out hundreds of times in one breath. Blood dripped from the space between the old man's brows and cracks appeared. His body was densely packed like a spider web and was covered in fine, blood-colored lines. In the end, fresh blood seeped out and spread from all the fine red lines. This time, the old man was slashed dozens of times. His entire body suddenly disintegrated and fell down. After Chu Feng shouted, he didn't even look at him again. He immediately turned around and charged into the crowd. This was a night of bloodshed. In this battle, more than 150 hunters from Skypiercer were all lying dead. Half of them died under the reincarnation blade without even leaving a corpse behind. The other half had broken limbs and were drenched in blood as they lay on the ground. They had exploded from the lightning fist. One had to know that there were some ruthless characters among them. They belonged to the gold medal old instructors and seated characters, but they had all been annihilated. This dark organization's branch on Earth had been wiped out by Chu Feng in a short period of time. The main reason was related to the domains he had laid down. These people couldn't escape. Not far away, the silver-winged race members were trembling in fear. They belonged to a peripheral organization and couldn't be considered a direct descendant. After witnessing this battle with their own eyes, they felt a chill run down their spines. Chu Feng raised his blade and walked over step by step under the moonlight. His hair was disheveled, and his whole body was drenched and stained with blood. It was all the enemy's blood. Boom! The lightning fist filled the sky as he began a massacre once again. He had also laid down a domain in this area to block off the silver-winged race's possibility of escape. These people were all trapped in this mountain forest. In the end, this group of silver-winged race members who had followed Skypiercer and protected them were also beheaded. The sky was filled with stars, and the bright moon was bright and clear. This mountain forest was deathly silent. All the birds and beasts were trembling and lying dormant. Even the mosquitoes didn't dare to make any noise. Chu Feng stood under the waterfall. He washed his body and changed into clean clothes. He carried his long blade on his back and turned to leave. He had rushed over tens of thousands of kilometers and destroyed Skypiercer's branch on Earth. It didn't take him a long time. In the end, he drove the green bamboo boat into the eastern night sky and charged straight into the sea. When Chu Feng returned, the auction was still in progress and hadn't ended. Moreover, climaxes were rising one after another. Some rare treasures, as well as those saint children and saintesses, were being auctioned off in full swing. "Brother Chu, where did you go just now?" asked the Origin Demon Race's Crown Prince Yuan Shichen. He had an odd expression because with his powerful divine instincts, he was sure that Chu Feng had left just now and wasn't on the ship. "My blood energy isn't flowing smoothly, so I went to move my muscles and bones," replied Chu Feng. At this time, the black yak, yellow cattle, and the old donkey all saw Chu Feng. Seeing him return calmly, they immediately understood that things had gone smoothly and the curtains had already fallen. They revealed expressions of joy and were completely relieved. "Chu Feng, you've let us down. Why did you sneak attack us and rob us at Mount Kunlun?" At this time, Yuan was making a punitive expedition, but her large eyes were somewhat charming. The vermilion bird fairy was also standing beside her. Her red battle clothes flickered with flickering flames as she stared intently at Chu Feng. Chu Feng stood on the deck with a wine cup in his hand and gestured to them. Then, with a sincere and serious attitude, he explained that he had mistaken them for someone else and thought they were related to the deity race. In the end, because he wasn't sure of their identities, he only robbed them and didn't kill them. Yuan cast a sidelong glance at him. How could she believe such nonsense? However, she didn't want to fall out with him. Originally, she wanted a rope in Chu Feng, but now she was just using this as a pretext to talk and find an entry point. The Origin Demon Race wanted a rope in the dragon Chu Feng. The silver-haired Lolita, Ing Xiao Xiao, appeared and disappeared unpredictably. She ran over to undermine him and said, "Big liar. Then why did you knock my sister unconscious? Could it be that she also looks like someone from the deity race? Can't you see that we have a head of silver hair? I thought you were from the Shilin race. That race's hair color is very mixed." Chu Feng replied without a blush or a jump in his heart. Ing Zhaxian and Ing Wudi, who were walking over, were speechless when they heard this. He really opened his mouth. The auction was in progress. As time passed, it became late at night. For hours had passed, and the Skypiercer organization in the universe couldn't remain calm. That was because they were mobilizing their troops that night. They wanted to send their most experienced trump card hunters to the Milky Way and Inter-Earth to kill Chu Feng. However, when they contacted the Earth branch to understand the situation, there was no movement. That place was deathly silent, and no one responded. After that, they contacted the peripheral members, but in the end, there was no response from the silver-winged race. They had lost contact with the Earth branch. This was definitely a major incident. Their hearts sank at that time. The people they had sent to Earth had actually all lost contact. It was truly comical and laughable. In the end, they could only contact the interstellar explorers and spend a large sum of money to buy information from these organizations so that they could search. There were many organizations among the interstellar explorers, and naturally, some of their members were on Earth. These people would occasionally have business dealings with the Skypiercer, but now they directly accepted the order. That was because this kind of mission was too easy. They only needed to rush to the destination and take a look. That night, a piece of shocking news spread through the starry skies at an explosive speed. Many orthodoxies were shocked and flabbergasted. The interstellar explorers usually explored, excavated treasures, and also helped people search for information. All of this was paid, and the buyer wasn't the only one. They had no obligation to keep it a secret. When they rushed to the depths of Mount Wanwu, they immediately smelled the pungent smell of blood. After that, they saw corpses all over the ground, as well as many human-shaped ashes. The remnants of the battle clothes had the Skypiercer's insignia on their sleeves. They realized that this was the Dark Hunter's old lair, their branch on Earth. These people were all dead. When they told this news to the Skypiercer, the higher-ups of this colossus in the darkness were furious. At the same time, some other orthodoxies also received the news, causing a monstrous uproar. Heavens, who did this? The Dark Hunters were hunted down and completely annihilated. Not a single one was able to escape. It was a huge earthquake. The news spread through the starry skies. Not long ago, didn't they announce on the official platform that they were going to start hunting Chu Feng? In the end, something happened to them first. This happened on Earth? It can't be. Some people's eyes flickered as they made a startling association. Very soon, many bidders at the Eastern Sea Auction House also received the news. They were all stupefied. Many people got up and whispered to each other as they discussed spiritedly. "Chu Feng, you couldn't have done this, could you?" At this moment, even Ing Wudi wore a shocked expression as he looked at Great Demon Chu opposite him. Chu Feng swirled his red wine and calmly walked onto the high platform. He said to everyone, "I'm holding a press conference at the last minute." Chapter 718. 1. The auction site was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. The starry skies were in chaos. Someone had wiped out the Skypiercer's Earth branch. How big of a deal was this? In the end, he played it down and took responsibility. But the more he did so, the more it seemed like he was swinging a large hand and slapping the Skypiercer's big mouth. One had to know that not long ago, the Skypiercer had announced to the starry skies that they would hunt down and kill Chu Feng. They released the news with incomparable solemnity and fiercely attacked him on the official platform. In the end, Chu Feng responded with practical actions on this very night. He took the initiative to attack first, plowing through the court and sweeping through the acupoints, destroying one of the Skypiercer's branches. It was obvious that the organization was in a tragic state. They had expended a lot of painstaking effort and expended a lot of energy to build a nest, but it was destroyed. Moreover, it was such a slap to the face. It was a resounding slap to the face in front of the whole universe and everyone in the universe. They couldn't cover up the truth, even if they wanted to. Didn't they see the person on the high platform holding a press conference? Even though his words were so simple and only one sentence, he expressed responsibility for the Mount Wanwu incident. But this was enough to drive the Sky Piercer crazy. Anyone could imagine how furious the organization's upper echelon members were right now. They reckoned that their 7 orifices were spewing fire. This was too much of a slap to the face. They had announced that they would hunt down Chu Feng, but in the end, this hot-tempered demon sent a big gift that very night. His revenge didn't even need to wait overnight. This slap to the face was too resounding and painful, especially tonight, which was very special. Everyone's attention was focused on the original auction. The effect of Chu Feng holding a short press conference on such an occasion was naturally extraordinarily good. There was no one else like this. The news spread to the universe in the first instance, and every race knew about it. On the high platform at the auction site, Chu Feng spoke again. "Thank you, Deity Race, for providing us with valuable information. Half of the credit for destroying the Sky Piercer belongs to you." The Deity Race, a hashtag yin hashtag. Chu Feng's sudden words made many people from the Deity Race so angry that their teeth hurt. Even though they knew that Demon Chu's but wasn't straight and had always challenged them, they still felt angry that he was lying through his teeth and slandering them. They weren't worried about Sky Piercer's revenge, because this kind of framing couldn't stand scrutiny. Everyone in the world knew that the Deity Race had a great enmity with Chu Feng. It was also because of this that Chu Feng was full of nonsense, even though he clearly knew that people wouldn't believe him. This made the Deity Race even more unhappy. He was purposely trying to disgust them. In the universe, many people did not know whether to laugh or cry. At first, everyone was rather shocked. After all, even the Sky Piercer had suffered a great loss. However, now, everyone wanted to laugh. This press conference was really a little improper. Finally, Chu Feng concluded, "I mourn and grieve for the victims here. The dead are already gone, and I hope that the survivors of the Sky Piercer will learn from this." F***CK. Many people were petrified, completely speechless. This was provoking the Sky Piercer in public and challenging them in front of all the evolvers in the universe. At this moment, the major galaxies were quiet at first, but then they boiled over. Who knew how many evolvers were discussing, and they were all stimulated to the extreme. Oh my, this demon brother really has a bad temper. He's too direct and efficient in his actions. If there's a grudge, he'll immediately take revenge. Mother Asterisker, it's only been a blink of an eye. The auction is still in progress, and he's already annihilated a part of the Sky Piercer's troops. He's too domineering, and he's even holding a press conference. Shoo, lower your voice. Do you want to be targeted by the Dark Hunters? But to be honest, this time, the Sky Piercer really lost face. They released such a huge thunder, and everyone thought they were going to make a big move. In the end, everyone knew that things couldn't end like this. Chu Feng was swift and decisive this time. He was so tyrannical that the Sky Piercer was momentarily stunned. However, there was bound to be a violent storm following, and something big was bound to happen. That was because even the strongest races in the starry skies were afraid of the Sky Piercer. They had never declined after so many years, and there was naturally something terrifying about them for being able to survive for so long. In reality, every branch of the Dark Hunter organization was pervaded with killing intent at this moment. Some of them were indeed stunned. After the news came back, that quasi-saint hunter smashed the entire main hall with a palm and raised his leg to kick a golden Arhut level mount to death. He was unable to restrain his anger. If one were to ask who was the most sullen person, it would naturally be him, because he was the one who handled this matter. Everything that happened tonight was related to his decision. How can you become a saint with this kind of mentality? At this moment, an ancient and vicissitudes of life suddenly rang out in the dark void, causing the quasi-saint to feel a chill from head to toe. He immediately became very respectful and cautious as he listened to the teachings. Things have already happened, so the remedy is to eliminate him. That aged voice's words were simple. After that, a blurry creature left in the darkness and entered the starry skies. The quasi-saint hunter wiped the sweat off his forehead. He hadn't expected that a top-notch dark saint would actually appear. That was an ancient existence that had hopes of illuminating the heavens. This was one of their Sky Piercer's true trump cards. He had always been walking in that dark land amidst the primal chaos, and he had actually appeared today to patrol this place. This night was destined to not be peaceful. There was singing and dancing in the Eastern Sea, and there were Sanuses dancing. There was no other way. Great Demon Chu's ferocious might was too overwhelming. He had only asked some Sanuses in a friendly manner if they could display their talents for the guests. In the end, they were like chicks pecking at rice, as they quickly agreed. That was because his violent temper and his way of doing things made the group of Sanuses and sons who didn't understand him fearful and felt their heads swell. One had to know that the auction was nearing its end. Most of them had been won by their own clansmen and were prepared to take them back. They were finally going to escape from the abyss of misery. If they provoked this great demon at the last moment, what would they do if he forced them to stay? They would really have no place to cry. The so-called illustrious reputation was displayed by Chu Feng through his own actions. In the end, everyone was happy with the auction. All the guests were rather satisfied, and all the Sanuses and sons had made their deals. More than half of that small mountain of secret treasures had also been bought. Old Donkey bared his buck teeth and howled at the moon. Hee-haw, hee-haw, we can eat the 6 paths of reincarnation pills like jelly beans in the future. This immediately extinguished the joy of the group of guests and Sanuses. Each and every one of them was filled with hatred, because this was the money they had used to buy their lives. Old Donkey's words were naturally exaggerated, but this time, Chu Feng and the others had indeed gained a lot. If they really waited for the Wormhole Express Company to deliver the 6 paths of reincarnation pills, deity elixir, and hellish elixir, it wouldn't be as simple as 1 or 2 jars, but a whole pile of them. At that time, it would be enough even if this group of people could bring disaster to the world. In the end, Old Ape swung his big stick and announced the end of the auction. Big Black Yak's face was flushed, and his big black face actually wasn't black anymore. He hugged everyone he caught, and many of the guests were sick of him, especially those who participated in the bidding for their own race's Sanuses and sons. They all wanted to beat him to death. Old Donkey followed suit, and also came over to hug. Moreover, his mouth wasn't idle as he recited his forward sutra and took advantage of everyone. In the end, he was beaten up by Ing Xiao Xiao until his head was full of bumps, and he kicked his hind legs as he ran away. Under the moonlit night, Chu Feng, Ing Wudi, and Yuan Shicheng clinked glasses from time to time. Their discussion wasn't bad, and they wanted to carry out some kind of transaction. These two wanted to buy the innocuous divine blood, myriad star blood, and origin magnetic sacred blood. They didn't want the person and only wanted the purest blood because they knew Chu Feng was already refining the blood medicine. The two of them stated clearly that they would bring it back to the clan to refine medicine. They suspected that the 3 of them had eaten immortal medicine to have that kind of constitution, so they wanted to return to their origins. In the end, Zhou Shang and the other 2 didn't make a deal. Chu Feng decided to stay and study it. At the very least, he had to refine the medicinal properties in the myriad star blood. That was because Yao Yao needed it. As for the innocuous divine blood and origin magnetic sacred blood, he could give them to his brothers to increase their potential. In the starry skies, the spirit race was anxious, and so was the power behind the origin magnetic sacred physique. What surprised Chu Feng was that a mysterious power in the starry skies was also incomparably anxious and nervous about the innocuous divine physique safety. This made his eyes reveal a cold and merciless expression. Did this innocuous divine physique, Zhou Shang, really come from the outer realm? I don't care where you come from. You have to spit out everything you obtained on Earth. Then I'll cripple you. If all else fails, I'll chop your crippled bodies into pieces and sell them." The spirit race was the most anxious. This night, they actually lowered their arrogant heads and requested to speak to Chu Feng. They said that everything could be discussed. As long as the myriad star physique was released, they could sit down and talk about any conditions. "Send me a basket of mutant fruits for advancing to the golden body realm." Chu Feng demanded an exorbitant price. Even the spirit race's veteran expert in charge of the negotiations turned green when he heard this news. He really thought they were cabbages. "I don't have a basket, but sending a few won't be a problem." The spirit race spoke humbly. He was really worried to death that the myriad star physique would be destroyed. At this moment, all kinds of conditions could be discussed. Then, someone from the spirit race advised again, "Little friend, you don't need the fruits of the golden body realm for the time being. You should know that the Cloud Eater and Transformation realms need to be polished over time. It takes a long time to forge a golden body. No one can take shortcuts. Who are you trying to fool? Can't the damning Pure Land obtain 100 years of fortune in a single night?" said Chu Feng. He spoke it out directly without hiding anything. The spirit race's people curled their lips and thought to themselves, "You don't deserve that kind of fortune. You don't have the qualifications to enter. If you really dare to appear in damning Pure Land, you'll definitely be captured on the spot and dissected for research. Let me tell you, send me a basket of mutant fruits of the golden body realm. Otherwise, there's no room for discussion. Moreover, they must be of high quality. Don't send the ugly ones." In the end, Chu Feng used these conditions that were difficult to accept and temporarily pushed the spirit race back. In short, everyone was satisfied with the auction this time. At the very least, a group of saint children and saintesses could leave alive, and Chu Feng and the others also obtained a large amount of resources. 3 days later, some bottles and jars were sent into the folded space of the Eastern Sea in succession. The Wormhole Express Company let Chu Feng collect them. Every time Chu Feng received a batch of great medicines, scriptures, and other resources, he would express deliver them to a saintess or son. Every time, he would intimately pat their shoulders and say, "Have a safe journey. We'll meet again in the universe." All the saint children and saintesses who were sent on their way didn't utter a word. They cursed him 100 times in their hearts and didn't want to see him for the rest of their lives. However, the reality was just so wonderful. Perhaps there would be a day of reunion in the near future. 10 days later, the payment was settled. Every race paid a huge price to invite the Wormhole Express Company to open a super wormhole in order to rescue the saintesses and sons they cared about earlier. Mount Eternal was filled with cheers and laughter. They had obtained too many things. If they had to buy them themselves, they simply couldn't afford it. Woo-woo! The horn of war was blown. It was boundlessly terrifying outside Earth. This was a strange horn that sounded like the wail of a malicious spirit. The starry sea was shaken. After someone heard the news, they immediately recognized that this was an empire of darkness under the banner of the Sky Piercer. This was an extremely powerful force that had descended upon Earth. No one could be seen, and only the sound of the war horn could be heard. The Empire of Darkness under the banner of the Sky Piercer had arrived. They were gathering killers, and it was unknown how many hunters would flock over to carry out the assassination. They're too arrogant. They're just killers, yet they want to start a war and blow the horn so brazenly. The Black Yak was furious. They're courting death, Ouyang Feng said directly. Chu Feng flipped through the information and revealed a grave expression after he inquired about the Empire of Darkness under the banner of the Sky Piercer through the photon computer. They're so ostentatious. There's definitely a big shot coming. It might even be a dark saint. What do we do? Said the Manchurian tiger. Chapter 719. Outside of Earth, the sound of a bugle horn, which was like the wailing of a malicious spirit, resounded through the sky and made one's scalp go numb. The Empire of Darkness was attacking, and the winds and clouds were surging. The Sea of Stars was boiling. After so many years, Skypiercer had rarely launched such a large-scale assassination operation. Perhaps this could be called a war. The predecessor of the Empire of Darkness was originally the 8th-ranked division under Skypiercer, but the Dark Hunters on that planet grew stronger and stronger. In the end, they actually used the Black Blade as their symbol and established an empire. Now, some people believe that they were already among the top 3 divisions of Skypiercer and were called the Darkblade Imperial Court. In the last 500 years, the Darkblade Imperial Court had sounded the bugle horn 3 times and launched large-scale assassination operations. In the end, they destroyed an incomparably powerful orthodoxy every time and carried out the extermination of an entire race. More than 10 vital planets controlled by those 3 orthodoxies were massacred 3 times in total. This was definitely a cold-blooded imperial court. Anyone related to those 3 orthodoxies was completely annihilated. This was because those 3 orthodoxies had once killed their ace assassins. Their desire for revenge was too strong, and they used bloody facts to tell the world that provoking them wouldn't end well. It was precisely this kind of terrifying battle record that made the people of Skypiercer more and more tyrannical. Although they were called the Empire of Darkness, no one could find their exact location. Some people said that they didn't have a fixed residence and were wandering the entire universe. Some people also said that they had a glorious identity. On the surface, they looked noble and brilliant, but in reality, they were a rich and famous, powerful orthodoxy. They would only reveal their sinister claws and secretly hunt when they were needed at the crucial moment. Some people even said that this Empire of Darkness was actually a true ancient imperial court in reality. They would only secretly transform when it was time to hunt, and the imperial court's experts would come out in full force. Clearly, the Darkblade Imperial Court's arrival on Earth was a matter of great influence. All parties were paying attention and shocked. In space outside Earth, there were originally many people from various races, as well as a large number of space pirates and interstellar explorers. Many of them were at the Golden Arhut realm and were waiting for the moment they could descend. They wanted to swarm in and seize the fortunes. However, they were all retreating like the tide, leaving enough space for fear of colliding with the Darkblade Imperial Court hunters. At present, no one could discover where the bugle horn was being blown. However, there were already waves of sword cries coming from the void. Then, people saw hundreds of black swords appear and fly across the sky. The Darkblade Imperial Court's battle fortress has arrived and is hidden in the void. Moreover, hundreds of hunters have been summoned at the first instance. They're about to launch. Some people said in deep voices. In reality, the Skypiercer's determination this time exceeded everyone's imagination. They swore to annihilate Chu Foam and went to war. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void trembled. That day, everyone discovered that over 10,000 black longswords appeared, rushing out from a certain crack in the void, and then quickly disappearing. Heavens, over 10,000 hunters have been summoned. This is simply unimaginable. People were convinced that this was indeed. The so-called war fortress was a dark imperial city, a large-scale spatial weapon that belonged to the Darkblade Imperial Court. It could traverse the universe and had now appeared outside Earth. This so-called battle fortress was a dark imperial city. It was a large-scale spatial weapon belonging to the Darkblade Imperial Court. It could cross the universe and now appeared outside Earth. It was precisely this super spatial weapon that caused the expressions of many famous orthodoxies to change. It could infiltrate a galaxy at any time and abruptly launch a race extermination war. However, today the Darkblade Imperial Court had come brazenly with their troops bearing down on the border. This was looking down on the evolvers on Earth, and they didn't take them seriously. We're here, and we're going to slaughter. On that day, there was such a declaration in outer space. It was cold, emotionless, and at the same time disdainful. They wanted to kill Chu Feng and establish an even more powerful branch here. Otherwise, there was no need to muster such a large force. After that, there were no more movements in outer space. There were only occasional bursts of black sword light. Thousands of dark hunters were lying dormant in outer space, ready to attack Earth with their swords at any time. There was once a saint who spied on them. Then a black, blurry silhouette walked out and disappeared into the solar system. This horrified the saints of other races. They turned around and left. Even at their level, they didn't want to provoke a dark saint. They weren't willing to be targeted by an assassin of the same level. The evolvers on this planet are still too weak. The will of the stars is protecting them, making it difficult for our people to descend. A hoarse voice was discussing in outer space. We can contact the local powers. If there's an important energy pagoda on this planet, they can guide us over safely. This is the information. Penglai, Fangzhong, and Yingzhou can be used on this declining planet, but it's unclear whether there are energy pagodas at present. Most likely not. Otherwise, the other orthodoxies would have succeeded long ago. We'll think of a way after the army penetrates deep. Ask our little fellows and interstellar explorers to excavate the ruins and strive to find a suitable energy inheritance pagoda to guide us in. This was a conversation between quasi-saints. If hunters of this level came to Earth, they would be invincible if they really penetrated deep. At this moment, Chu Feng was looking into the distance from the sky above the eastern sea. He flew above the clouds and opened his eyes. His fiery eyes shot out divine beams for a long time. Especially on this night, the scene was too astonishing. Two beams of golden light shot straight into outer space. After that, he saw a black imperial city that was over 50 kilometers in length and width floating in outer space. Even though it could be invisible, it was still captured by his fiery eyes. The rumors are true. The Darkblade Imperial Court had a large-scale war fortress that looks like an imperial city. It can cross the universe and arrive outside of Earth. Chu Feng knew that the other party's appetite was too big. They wanted to settle down here and seize the excellent opportunity of Earth's recovery to increase the overall strength of this imperial court, especially since the current Earth was too tempting and had too many benefits for young evolvers. In the firmament, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. Chilly laughter traveled over, piercing one's bones. Ant-like thing also dares to look up at where the dark imperial court is. You're very lucky. You're obviously as weak as an ant, but you still attracted us. Even if you're squashed to death, you can be proud. However, killing you is just something we can do in passing to sharpen our descendants. What's important is that we want to occupy this planet and reside here for a long time. From now on, the natives here will be our external members. If they dare to disobey, only blood and bones will remain. In outer space, such a cold voice was transmitted clearly into Chu Feng's heart. In outer space, a quasi-saint discovered that Chu Feng was spying on them. Just the shady organization of assassins. A bunch of clowns. You have no face and don't dare to walk under the sunlight. Yet you still have the nerve to be insolent? If you have the guts, come over now. Your young Master Chu will kick your skull until it explodes. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A dozen or so figures appeared in the war fortress. Some of them were still very young. They lowered their heads to look down at the planet below, and the divine light in their eyes erupted. A man completely shrouded in a black robe said with arrogance and contempt, "Chu Feng, calculate the time yourself. You don't have much time left." Another woman hidden in a black robe said, "I'll give you a chance. If you want to die with dignity, come over immediately to the war fortress. We'll grant you death." #Yen. Chu Feng immediately used Earth's #1 scripture, the 3-character classic, in response to those people's attitudes. In the sky, this group of dark hunters were all leaders and golden arits. They were the main high-level members who wanted to establish a new branch on Earth. Some of them were relatively young and were only a few decades old. Their evolution speed was super terrifying. Not only were they the rising stars of the Darkblade Imperial Court, but they were also famous in the entire Sky Piercer and had boundless potential. Now, they were faced with Chu Feng's 3-character classic, and their expressions stiffened. Aunt, who do you think you are? You're not fit to talk to us. Just wait to be destroyed. If it wasn't for the fact that we had some hope for the natives here and wanted to see if we could activate your ancestral blood and develop into a new base for our hunters, we would have definitely massacred all the creatures on this planet. But this time, you and everyone related to you will all die. Enjoy the last moments of your life. In the sky, a female golden Arhut hunter was very disdainful, as if saying a few more words to Chu Feng would lower her status. #Yin. Chu Feng once again responded with a 3-character classic. Since he couldn't reason with them, he would greet them cordially and warmly. Then, from this night onwards, Earth's 3-character classic, especially the essence of national curses, became popular throughout the starry sky. After some evolvers flew into a rage out of humiliation, they would activate the Chu clan's 3-character classic. In the end, it led to a group of people imitating it because it was very destructive. To many races, they thought of themselves as advanced civilizations and didn't have this kind of scripture for a long time. After receiving this kind of baptism, they felt that it was extremely rough. You dark creatures that live in the night, just wait for your deaths. Chu Feng said finally and turned to leave. But not long after, he soared into the sky again and broke into the atmosphere. Amidst the ripping sounds, his blade light increased dramatically and beheaded 8 hunters who had quietly infiltrated Earth before swaggering off. These are the troops of the Dark Blade Imperial Court. They're too weak. Send golden Arhats down earlier. Chu Feng laughed loudly and disappeared into the Eastern Sea. Bug, we'll see the results very soon. You'll die very miserably. I'll refine you into the wick of a dark oil lamp and burn you for 1,000 years to ensure that you'll always be alive. Lowly ant, you, your parents, your relatives, and the members of your 9 clans can all wait for your deaths. In the sky, there were up-and-coming assassins who secretly transmitted their voices to intimidate Chu Feng. Unfortunately, the Golden Arhut level of power couldn't penetrate deep down. On Mount Eternal, Chu Feng was having a discussion with the Black Yak, Ouyang Feng, Wu Qifeng, Yellow Cattle, and the others. Were these dark hunters trying to lure Uncle Ming into making a move? Or were they plotting something bigger and wanted to provoke the Sage Master so that he would return from the broken universe in the primal chaos while sitting on the bronze coffin? Chu Feng, Yellow Cattle, and the others all agreed that the Skypiercer's people weren't simply crazy. They were concealing some kind of truth. They might have accepted a commission from a terrifying existence to catch a big fish. The people of Mount Eternal all believed that they shouldn't muster such a large force just to kill Chu Feng. At this moment, they were drawing their bows and hanging their swords in order to hunt down the real big shots. Even if they wanted to rebuild the Skypiercer's branch on Earth, they didn't need to do so. The Skypiercer should have already joined hands with some of the strongest races in the universe and accepted some kind of super assassination commission. After some discussion, Chu Feng was ready to leave. He wanted to find the power to destroy this dark empire. There's no need for Uncle Ming to make a move, and there's no need to provoke the Sage Master either. We'll strive to eliminate them all, said Chu Feng. After Chu Feng left, Mount Eternal couldn't be at peace. We always let a person like Chu Feng charge at the forefront. We feel guilty. This time we'll do something big. The Black Yak suddenly spoke. He had made up his mind and looked at Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng. Chapter 720. Chu Feng left. After crossing the East Sea and entering the mainland, he headed toward Mount Zhijin to visit his sworn brother. Jiangning, Mount Zhijin. The interior of the revered 8 trigrams furnace was very tranquil. After arriving, Chu Feng was a bit apprehensive. The person living here was Yao Yao's grandfather. How should he address him later? Even though that person's mind wasn't clear, Yao Yao would definitely beat him to death if she knew he was taking advantage of her like this. This time, Chu Feng entered the ground cautiously. He had made up his mind to address him as senior and not carelessly address him. There was an underground cavern like the body of a furnace. Chu Feng sensed it carefully and then began to call out. At first, There was no movement until he activated his domain and lit up all the flames in the 8 directions. Then he experienced a terrifying aura. The sound of iron chains seemed to come from hell as they passed through the stone walls. Then, a tall figure covered in long black hair squeezed out of the stone wall. The rock was undamaged. He had used a wall-passing technique. "Senior." Chu Feng saluted immediately. The tall figure's face was covered in long black hair. He said in an indistinct voice, "Second brother." Chu Feng was tongue-tied. He was a bit stupefied and astonished. This old man's brain wasn't bright. Moreover, he was an incarnation. How did he suddenly become enlightened? He actually called him second brother. He was sure he hadn't heard wrong. It was that form of address. Mammoth, golden goat of starry skies, primordial demonic rhinoceros. The old man's speech was unclear. The long black hair on his body emitted a black light as he revealed the names of some races. Then, the old man even wiped his mouth as if he was wiping off saliva. Chu Feng immediately understood. After giving this old man some food last time, he had become addicted and was now asking for food. Fortunately, Chu Feng was prepared. He had thought of this before coming here and was about to deliver some delicacies to Yao Yao's grandfather. More than 9,000 evolvers have been burned to death on Eternal Island. Many of the alien races had left behind huge corpses that were cooked thoroughly. Chu Feng put many of them into his spatial bracelet. Then, the fragrance of meat wafted out as the old man ate heartily. Chu Feng had come here to release Yao Yao's grandfather's true body. He guessed that it was a terrifying existence at the Heaven Illuminator level. He might even be more powerful than people at the same level. After all, this old man was determined to fight his way into the Yang realm and seek revenge from that supreme expert in the mortal realm. How would Yao Yao's grandfather have that kind of faith if he didn't have some skills? Unfortunately, there was a problem with Yao Yao's grandfather himself. His mind couldn't accept it, and his mind was deranged. He had been sleeping in the depths of the Earth's core all this time. Otherwise, everything might have been completely different if Yao Yao's grandfather hadn't missed that ancient war that decided the fate of the Earth. If he had joined the war, the history would have been rewritten. However, life couldn't be repeated, and there weren't that many ifs. The ancient years had already passed, and it was too late to say anything. Back then, Yao Yao's grandfather had disappeared. Even the people closest to him didn't know where he was. Chu Feng had come to invite this old man with a sliver of hope. As long as this old man could soar into the air for a moment, Chu Feng believed that he could shatter the sacred weapon in the sky with a single slap, the Imperial City of War. Moreover, he should be able to kill the tens of thousands of hunters, including the Dark Saint. If that was the case, it would be enough to intimidate the starry skies. The significance would be far-reaching. From now on, Skypiercer and the 10 Greats would be afraid and wouldn't dare to treat this place as their backyard. After a long time, Overlord Chu was satisfied and stopped eating. Then, under Chu Feng's constant communication, the tall Overlord Chu brought Chu Feng with him and disappeared into the depths of the Earth's core. There was primal chaos here and terrifying geomagnetism. It formed a small world. This was a region of nothingness. There were many stars and rivers of stars flowing in reverse. It was exceptionally mysterious. An ancient coffin seemed to be made of stars and was extremely brilliant. There were many divine gold chains wrapped around it. One of them was especially thick. It was a type of mother gold with surging yang qi. That was planted in Yao Yao's grandfather's body by a supreme expert from the Yang realm. The evil qi in this void was too heavy. Chu Feng was almost suffocating. He wanted to approach the ancient coffin, but he felt as if his body was about to shatter. His body was in severe pain. Chu Feng called out here, but he didn't get any response in the end. That ancient coffin was incomparably silent, but the formless aura was about to collapse everything here. It indicated that there was indeed an unimaginable evolver sleeping here. Then, Chu Feng sought help from Overlord Chu. This corpse demon was reborn from a drop of blood and was an incarnation of Yao Yao's grandfather. However, he was affected by the true body and his mind wasn't clear. He said, "I recalled some old matters. The real shackles come from that mother gold. It's condensed with the Yang realm symbols. If we act rashly, there will be a great disaster. When the true body awakens, it will kill the innocent. Chu Baowang's words were still somewhat unclear, but Chu Feng could already see through them and understand them. That mother gold chain. Chu Feng stared at the ancient coffin. It had been planted by someone and had taken root in the flesh of Yao Yao's grandfather's true body. He didn't give up and called out again and again. He wanted to wake up this matchless expert because he knew that only Yao Yao's grandfather could kill all enemies at present. He called out softly like this for half a day. Then, a light snapping sound came from the ancient coffin. The chain was moving. This shocked him. Was this considered a response? Then his vision turned black and his whole body was about to explode. Chu Feng heard the sound of his heart about to shatter, along with all the bones in his body. How was this possible? His evolution was swift and violent. Now that he had reached this stage, he was actually about to disintegrate under some kind of aura. Was this the power of a heaven illuminator? Overlord Chu moved and shielded Chu Feng behind him immediately. A large expanse of black light soared and covered the area, blocking the aura that had inadvertently spread over. Second brother, don't be afraid. Overlord Chu's voice was slightly trembling. He was very strong and difficult to fathom, but he was still the same when facing his own true body. He was suppressed to the point where he didn't have any temper. The next moment, Overlord Chu suddenly trembled. The light in his eyes suddenly flourished and turned green as if he was about to come back to life. Moreover, his voice changed at this moment. It was incomparably dignified as he said, "Who are you? Why have you barged into this place?" In just a split second, Chu Feng's hair stood on end. He knew that Overlord Chu had changed. He was probably being dominated by Yao Yao's grandfather's true body consciousness. "My name is Chu Feng. I'm a youngster from the later generations." Chu Feng spoke quickly and briefly. He mentioned Yao Yao, talked about the passing of the ancient times, and talked about the present Earth predicament. "I know. I missed the ancient times." Yao Yao's grandfather's voice was incomparably deep and carried endless sadness. There was also an indescribable grief. He tried his best to restrain himself, but in the end, he couldn't help but erupt. He wanted to face the sky and roar. But in the end, his body stiffened and he didn't move at all. He emitted a black light to protect Chu Feng. Primal chaos, chi, exploded where the ancient coffin was. The void over there split open, and the heaven and earth were in chaos. A small world formed and was annihilated immediately. The ancient coffin was shaking, and a painful roar came from within. It was a kind of deep remorse and regret. He already knew what had happened in the ancient times. "But I can't leave now. If I break free and walk out, I'll become a killing machine. I won't distinguish between friend and foe and will destroy everything. Leave immediately. I don't have much time. I'm about to go crazy again. I must sleep. Hurry, hurry, hurry." Yao Yao's grandfather's true body urged. Clearly, there was a big problem with him. He disappeared back then because he was imprisoning himself. Otherwise, he would destroy everything. It was even possible that his relatives, his disciples, and the planet he lived on would be destroyed by him with his own hands. This place formed a small world and confined his power. He was imprisoning himself. Chu Feng wasn't satisfied and shouted, "Senior, can't you even leave for a moment? I'm not asking you to enter the depths of the universe. There's an imperial court of assassins outside of Earth. They want to rule over this planet and wash this place with blood. I need you to attack." He believed that as long as Yao Yao's grandfather attacked, he could solve all the problems with one slap. However, at this moment, Overlord Chu was horrified. He brought Chu Feng with him and retreated rapidly. In a split second, they left the small world in the Earth's core and rushed out of the primal chaos wall. Then, Chu Feng sensed a huge explosion taking place inside. It was filled with a tyrannical aura and boundless killing intent. It was full of destructive and murderous aura. "Kill, kill, kill," 7 words came out from inside. It was a kind of frenzied emotion with fluctuations, as if the world was going to be annihilated. Chu Feng was horrified. If he didn't retreat, he would definitely be torn to pieces by the invisible energy. The experts of the heaven illuminators were unfathomable. If he's stained with blood, it'll be a path of no return. He might not be able to turn back and return to this place. He can only start a massacre in the universe without a sense of self. Demon King, Chu said. His mind seemed to have cleared up quite a bit. After an unknown amount of time, a voice came from the small world in the Earth's core. Go to Kunlun and get the pollen of the refinement's sacred tree. I might have a breath's worth of time to attack. Then, the tyrannical aura erupted once again. Chu Feng was stunned and then pleasantly surprised. He asked Overlord Chu to bring him back to the surface and then turned to leave. A breath's worth of time was enough for a terrifying heaven illuminator. It should be able to destroy everything. Even if there were big fishes in the battle fortress, they might all be destroyed. Chu Feng didn't stop and rushed all the way to Mount Kunlun. What gave him a headache was that he didn't find the refinement's sacred tree in the last battle. He didn't know where it had run off to. Perhaps it entered the depths of the home of myriad gods. He believed that the old tree was still in Kunlun and hadn't gone far. Back then, it was the refinement's sacred tree that helped him smelt the diamond chakram. It shook the tree's pollen and transformed the mother metal. Old tree, old saint, old god, an old friend has come to visit. Chu Feng shouted. He ran through Mount Kunlun without fear of being discovered. With his current strength, he really wasn't afraid of meeting an opponent on Earth. Then, he rushed all the way into the home of myriad gods. After arriving here, he didn't dare to fly as he pleased because the terrain here was terrifying. Last time, many people had died, and even he was almost trapped inside. Old tree, old saint, where are you? Chu Feng shouted continuously. An abrupt voice rang out. An old tree with its roots as its legs emerged from the distance and looked at him vigilantly. Brat, you tricked me last time. Almost all of the pollen was used on your bracelet. Now that you've come to find me again, it's definitely not anything good. Big brother, old brother, I've missed you so much. Chu Feng was overjoyed after seeing it. He didn't expect to find it so smoothly. As expected, it was the home of myriad gods. At the same time, the Black Yak also made an important decision on Mount Eternal. The Black Yak said, Little Yellow, little Ouyang, and I will enter the depths of Mount Eternal to seize control of the demon race's training ground. Once we obtain it, this war machine will be enough to crush the so-called Empire of Darkness fortress and destroy them all. The Manchurian tiger's face was full of worry. Old Black, can you do it? Mount Eternal is too dangerous. Even peerless talents like Little Yellow and Little Ouyang return with serious injuries every time they enter. We're afraid you'll be in danger. I have to go even if I can't. I believe I can endure it and charge to the end. I'll stake it all this time. The Black Yak roared. He didn't want Chu Feng to charge at the front every time and block all the enemies. He also wanted to take action and share the pressure. I'll go with you. The Manchurian tiger and the Black Yak had long since become sworn brothers. I will also be throwing my life away. The old donkey was discouraged. He knew his own limits. I'll go with you guys, Wu Qifeng said. After that, the old llama chanted and also wanted to go with them. But Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng shook their heads. This was a place where the demon race nurtured demonic sages. The human race had no way of truly entering. After that, a group of great demons from Kunlun clamored. They wanted to charge in and use their lives to fill the pit, pave the way, and kill their way to the end. Chapter 721. The wind is bleak and the water is cold. Once I leave, I'll never return. Before leaving, the Black Yak drank big bowls of wine and ate big chunks of meat. He sang loudly to the bright moon in the sky and parted ways with everyone. The group was silent. Although the Black Yak hadn't entered the depths of Mount Eternal, perhaps the ending was as he sang. They would never see each other again. Don't be pessimistic, old Yak. We believe you'll come back alive. Brother Yak, don't go if you can't. My heart is broken after hearing you sing to the moon like this. I want to cry. The group of people spoke up. The Manchurian tiger was rarely loyal. He drunkenly said that he could go in place of the black yak. Even if he lost his head, it would only be a scar as big as a millstone. It wasn't a big deal. What are you guys depressed about? There's no need to sigh. I just feel that if I don't sing a poem before leaving, I'll seem like I'm lacking in literary talent and charm. Come, let's sing another one. The black yak cleared his throat and said loudly, "The wind blows and the clouds fly. I return home in the sea." How is it? I left and didn't return just now. Aren't I back now? I'll definitely come back alive and guarantee that I'll reappear in this world. The black yak said. He then gulped down a jar of wine and smashed it with a bang. He said, "Let's go." Then he set off with Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Fong into the depths of the mountain gate. "Brother Yak, take this." The group of people chased after him and stuffed a jade jar into his hands. "No, leave this great medicine behind. Don't waste it on me." The black yak refused. "Old yak, just take it. You're going to do great things, so you must preserve your life." The group of people told him to take it. Even Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Fong nodded in unison. In the end, the old yak put away a jar of golden medicinal liquid. This was extracted from an innocuous divine physique, Zhou Shang's body. Don't look at this small jar, as it was full of essence. The innocuous divine physique, Zhou Shang's blood was drained dozens of times. He was continuously refined and purified until he finally obtained this jar of medicine. The group gave it to the old yak. Then the old yak, Ouyang Fong, and Yellow Cattle entered the depths of Mount Eternal. In the blink of an eye, they entered the mist. It was as if the blue sea had turned into mulberry fields and the stars had shifted. Everything changed. The people who saw them off and the voices behind them disappeared. In front of them, the northern wind swept through the white grass, and even the dried bones on the ground flew into the air. This was a battlefield, full of desolation. Some broken flags were stuck in the ground, fluttering in the wind. There were even more corpses and bones, stretching as far as the eye could see. The crimson land emitted the howling sound of the wind. Apart from this, there were also indistinct figures walking over from the distance. Then, they howled and charged towards the three of them. Those were the living dead, all skin and bones. At this time, their eye sockets were flowing with a dazzling light. They did not have a clear mind, but they had the desire to kill. Kill! The three of them roared and moved forward. There was a moon here as well, hanging high in the sky. However, it was a bit cold, to the extent where following the intense battle on the battlefield, the full moon was dyed with the color of blood, becoming a bit scarlet. Dang, dang, dang. Sparks flew in all directions. Even though this was not the first time Yellow Ox and Ouyang Fong had come here, they didn't dare to be careless. Each of them carried a long sword and a large halberd as they attacked fiercely. What demons and ghosts! Grandpa Yak is here. Today I'm going to charge in and move that three-legged demonic cauldron with Little Yellow and Ouyang Fong. From now on, I can live in Mount Eternal and control this place instead of becoming a so-called passerby. The big black yak roared. He was already fighting with all his might. Before long, his body was already dyed with blood. Two crescent blades appeared in his hands. Those were his horns that had transformed into blades. He held them in his hands and slashed wildly. However, this ancient battlefield was densely packed with countless black shadows wearing armor as they attacked unceasingly. Roar! The living dead were roaring. They were extremely concentrated, numbering in the tens of thousands. It was as if a group of malicious spirits had charged out from hell and were attacking them. The deafening roars of vicious birds and ferocious beasts could be heard in the sky. A few pterosaurs could be seen flapping their tattered wings and spitting out a large expanse of black mist as they swooped down. In addition, there were also black dragons and silver dragons from the west. They carried a decaying aura as they opened their mouths and spat out rays of rune light as they attacked from the sky. There were also bone dragons, Taotai, Cheongqi, and so on the ground. They were all the corpses of ancient quasi-divine beasts. At this moment, it was as if they had come back to life. The earth collapsed and smoke and dust filled the night sky. Their roars shook the world like a clap of thunder. Countless monsters appeared with blood-red eyes as they charged forward. Yellow Cattle, Ouyang Fong, and the big black yak only had one target, a three-legged demonic cauldron in the depths of the Forbidden Land. This was the conclusion they had reached after repeated and serious research. That was the key artifact of the demon race's holy land. It required 3 creatures each to hold onto one of the cauldron's legs and perform a blood sacrifice in order to be able to control it and obtain the land approval. That was because they had studied many of Mount Eternal's stone tablets these days. They had deduced many things based on the carvings left behind by predecessors. Kill! Battle cries shook the heavens. Later on, the living dead and various monsters on this battlefield seemed to have truly come back to life. They could open their mouths and roar loudly. Moreover, when the blades struck their bodies, it was no longer as if they were chopping wood. Instead, blood would truly splatter out. Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Fong had wounds on their bodies and were dyed with blood. However, they were still advancing forward and attacking fiercely. As for the big black yak, he was in a somewhat miserable state. His chest had been pierced by an iron spear, and a broken sword was stuck in his shoulder. His back was pierced by a bone spear, and there were even teeth marks from a giant beast on his abdomen. He was covered in blood from head to toe, but he was very brave and fierce. His eyes were bloodshot as he carried the crescent blade formed from his large horn and charged forward. Finally, they left this battlefield and entered an area full of vitality. However, there was a chilly aura under the moonlight. There are mutant fruits here, but there are also murderous plants and all kinds of terrifying creatures. Be careful, Yellow Cattle warned. He had just finished speaking when a fist-sized golden ant flew over at an extremely fast speed. Its teeth were very sharp, like 2 flickering knives, and were about to crush the Yellow Cattle's throat. Bang! Yellow Ox punched out, shattering it into pieces. However, with a buzz, a group of golden ants rose from the forest and charged over. Moreover, there were many metal-devouring beasts not far away. They were like jackals and wolves, but their bodies were silver white. They liked to eat metal and also liked to kill. When they charged out of this place, the big black yak staggered. There were more than a dozen bloody holes all over his body. They had been pierced by a monster called the Earth Dragon. They were only a foot long, but their bodies were as hard as sharp swords. They could easily pierce through metal and mountains. The 3 of them faced tens of thousands of them. In the end, the big black yak wasn't as good as Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Fong and was heavily injured. Old Black, if we really can't do it, we'll send you out. This time, even Ouyang Fong didn't look sideways and spoke very seriously. He was worried that the big black yak wouldn't be able to hold on. The big black yak shook his head and insisted on going forward. He said, "No. According to the records on the stone tablet, the 3-legged demonic cauldron needs 3 people to activate. If I don't go, you guys will still be 1 person short no matter how strong you are. Drink some of the innocuous divine physique's blood medicine." Yellow Cattle didn't want him to be stingy with the great medicine in his hands. The big black yak shook his head and said, "No, we'll leave this thing first. I keep feeling that the 3-legged demonic cauldron's blood sacrifice might use some special divine blood." Ouyang Fong said, "Old Black, don't push yourself too hard. You drink it. Divine King Ouyang's blood is also divine blood. When the time comes, you can offer some as a sacrifice." The big black yak nodded and said, "Leave it first. I'll drink it if I really can't hold on." Old Black, don't be impulsive. I know you've hidden a stone tablet. There's a blood sacrifice method inferred by the predecessors on it. It says you have to sacrifice yourself. Don't believe it. Yellow Cattle was incomparably serious and told him not to be impulsive. In reality, he had secretly seen that stone tablet. Although the big black yak had hidden it, Yellow Cattle had already seen it. Ouyang Fong was shocked after hearing this and said, "Old Black, you're really something. Don't be silly. If you sacrifice yourself, how can we accept it? Can we just watch our brothers die? Also, Chu Feng won't agree to it. Do you want us to feel guilty for the rest of our lives? I feel like I've always been a burden. Finally, I have a chance to shine, so I want to give it a try. Don't worry, I have thick skin and flesh. I have the most blood, so I won't die. The big black yak said carelessly. No. Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng shook their heads together. Let's go. After the big black yak recovered, he waved his hand and rushed forward first. In Kunlun, Chu Feng's tongue was like a lotus flower. He was foaming at the mouth, but he finally managed to reason things out with the old sacred tree and obtained a large jar of pollen from it. Be careful. Don't get it on your body. Otherwise, you'll be refined and turned into a human weapon. The armament refinement sacred tree reminded him. Swoosh! Chu Feng immediately disappeared and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Little brat, you ran away after getting the benefits. You said you would accompany this old man for a chat. Where is he? The old tree shouted. Chu Feng was already thousands of kilometers away. He really couldn't stand it anymore. He chatted with the old tree for most of the night. His saliva was almost dry, and his throat was emitting smoke. In the end, the old tree was still listening with great interest. He was already about to vomit blood, especially since the old tree was a chatterbox. He followed along and talked without end. Jiangning, Mount Zhijin. Chu Feng came again. He went deep underground to find Overlord Chu. Then he asked him to bring him to the small world in the depths of the earth where primal chaos lingered. You've come. But have you thought it through? Once I leave this place, things will be unpredictable. Perhaps I won't be able to return to the past. From now on, I'll kill without bounds and bathe the starry skies in blood. I'll become the source of calamity, especially for this planet. That deep and hoarse voice came from the ancient coffin. It carried a trace of madness and boundless brutality. It was like an evil spirit waiting to escape. At this moment, Chu Feng hesitated. His heart palpitated. Was he saving his mother planet, or was he releasing blood and chaos? At this moment, Chu Feng hesitated. His heart palpitated. Was he saving his mother planet, or was he releasing blood and chaos? Chapter 722. In outer space, the Darkblade Imperial Quartz Battle Fortress was like a dark cloud that covered the sky. However, ordinary evolvers couldn't see it all because it could turn invisible. It was a super large-scale spatial saint artifact that possessed boundless might. It could easily tear space apart and traverse the universe. Of course, this kind of long-distance travel required a terrifying amount of energy. In the battle fortress, tens of thousands of black-robed people were holding large swords that could practically split the firmament and destroy all living things in the world. The murderous aura they emitted was too terrifying. One could imagine the scene of them raising their swords at the same time and slashing forward together. Even a powerful evolutionary orthodoxy wouldn't be enough and would be destroyed by the tens of thousands of swords. Interesting. Looks like we might be able to catch a few big fish. Currently, some small fish have taken a bait. In this war imperial city, in a vast and imposing palace hall, an old man shrouded in a black robe was sitting there with a hoarse voice. Beside him, even quasi-saint hunters were standing with their hands at their sides. They didn't have the qualifications to sit down. Obviously, the black-robed old man was a dark hunter saint. In addition, there were a few mysterious guests in the palace hall. Some wore bronze masks, some wore devil masks, and some had a chaotic fog covering their faces. All of them were saints. This was the commissioning party and the saint from Sky Piercer working together. They were waiting for the big fish in the starry sky to come to Earth's rescue. They wanted to deal a fatal blow and eliminate Uncle Ming and the others. Oh, I really hope the Sage Master will come this time. If he appears again, all the star passages will be sealed off by the ultimate powerhouses. He won't be able to escape, and this calamity will be eliminated forever, said a saint. Clearly, their race had made arrangements. A few golden arhats are spying on us. Kill them, said the dark saint. Then, that quasi-saint hunter disappeared. In outer space, there were many golden arhats hiding in the distance. Even saints were watching. Among them, there were a few golden arhats who couldn't be considered spying on them. However, the Dark Saint had already understood that the ancestors of those people's race had a good relationship with the ancient saints of Earth. Now, he was just making use of this as a pretext. In order to make his employer happy and satisfied, this Dark Saint didn't mind killing a few people at the last minute to liven things up. In the outer space of Earth, there were 5 evolvers at the Golden Body realm bleeding. They had been abruptly cleaved into 2 halves by someone with a large sword. It was an incomparably bloody scene. The creatures that are too close to this planet, be in the past or the present, better take it easy and reflect on themselves. A cold voice came from the Imperial City of War. It was indescribably domineering and eerie. They were confident in their backing. Since even the sacred expert factor was taken into consideration, they were naturally fearless. Hey, there's a special little fish. Kill it. The Dark Saint spoke again. An evolver was standing in the void and looking into the distance. He was faintly emitting the aura of a quasi-sage. This was an existence that was about to become a quasi-sage. Others might not be able to sense it, but the Dark Saint and the envoys were too powerful. They could sense it clearly. After that, the quasi-saint hunter attacked. He rushed to the vicinity of the moon and suddenly appeared there. He brandished his sword and launched a sneak attack in the blink of an eye. He chopped off one of that person's arms, causing him to be drenched in blood on the spot. You hunter, this evolver, who was about to become a quasi-sage, was both shocked and furious. He saw the symbol on the Dark Saint's sleeve and recognized him as someone from Skypiercer. Unfortunately, no one responded to him. The next moment, he was struck by the sword again and blood sprayed out from his chest. He was extremely furious and did his best to resist. Then he tore a jade talisman and immediately disappeared from his original position. Clearly, this was a holy item for escaping. It could take him across the sea of stars in an instant. You still want to leave? The Dark Saint stretched out a large hand from within the war fortress. It covered the starry sky and grabbed him. He fished him out of the void and carried him back to the Imperial City of Darkness. Everyone was overwhelmed with shock. A large hand had suddenly appeared near the moon and grabbed this person. Its strength was too terrifying. Yes, you're a descendant of the primordial demonic ox race. Your ancestor once had a deep friendship with Earth's reckless ox race. I heard that not long ago, you were offering sacrifices to Earth's reckless ox saint in front of a large tomb on a certain planet. This time, I'll teach you a lesson. A saint wearing a bronze mask spoke with a voice that shook the starry sky. The Dark Saint immediately laughed like an owl and said, "If you need to assassinate that old demonic ox, you can look for us. I can personally handle this kind of business." In the starry sky, the experts from various races were horrified. The person who had entrusted the mission and the people from Skypiercer were too unbridled. This was too tyrannical and arrogant. In the end, everyone saw a demonic ox being crushed by a large black hand in the void and turning into a bloody mist. This innocent expert only had time to let out a blood-curdling scream before his body and soul were destroyed. Is there anyone else who can adapt to circumstances? You must know that this declining planet is about to become a hunting ground for various races and a training ground for their young disciples. The natives here will either be plundered by the various races or massacred. It's important for people to see the general situation clearly. Otherwise, they'll die a foolish and muddled ghost. The Dark Saint spoke carelessly with a very casual look on his face. Late at night, Mount Eternal. The bright moon hung high in the sky, silvery and hazy. The big black yak was covered in blood and couldn't hold on much longer. Many of his bones were broken, and there were many bloody holes in his body. He had been forced to drink part of the innocuous divine physique's blood medicine. It's here. Even Golden Arhut experts might die if they come here. We're blocked here. Yellow Cow sighed. At this moment, they had already broken through 8 training areas and arrived here with great difficulty. They had carefully studied the stone tablet here at the 9th test and believed that they could ask for external help. However, doing so would only be considered a pass and wouldn't be able to control Mount Eternal. Clearly, this was a super test with extraordinary significance. "Let's go all out," roared the big black yak. After drinking the innocuous divine blood, his body shone, and some genes belonging to his ancient ancestors were recovering. The horns on his head became coarser and larger, and a vigorous primordial yak aura was released. This innocuous divine physique's blood is so astonishing. The big black yak was shocked. That was because he felt that there was an additional force in his blood. There were even some imprint fragments in his blood, which belonged to the primordial yak race's inheritance. It's not that the innocuous divine physique's blood is astonishing, but the divine medicine he ate was too heaven-defying. It caused his physique to transform and become a divine physique. Now that the medicinal properties in Zhoushan's blood have been extracted for you to consume, it can naturally transform you too, said Ouyang Feng. I feel that my condition is unprecedentedly good. Don't tell me I've become an innocuous divine physique. Let's go and kill our way in, said the big black yak. Boom! An hour later, the big black yak helped the yellow cow block an attack from a meteorite that weighed hundreds of thousands of kilograms. His bones were broken and his tendons snapped. He spat out large mouthfuls of blood and was sent flying. "Old Black!" shouted the yellow cow. He hurriedly helped him up. His little face was deathly pale and full of worry. This place was too dangerous. Weapons flew across the sky continuously and meteorites crashed down. On the ground, there were countless monsters. They were densely packed together, and they were charging toward him nonstop. In the distance, primal chaos was rising. There was a palace hall, a stone cave, and a 3-legged demonic cauldron in a pile of rubble. The 3 of them spared no effort to charge forward. It's fine. Even if I die, I have to get close to the 3-legged demonic cauldron. I can't die now. The big black yak did his best and stood up once again. They charged forward together. After that, they charged up a high hill. It was relatively safe. However, buzzing sounds could be heard continuously at this moment. They were all trembling, and in the end, they were suppressed to reveal their true forms. The 3 of them were trembling and couldn't reveal their human forms. Obviously, this was the demon race's supreme, forbidden land showing its might. It guaranteed that only pure-blooded demons could appear here. This was to test their bloodline and confirm that they weren't creatures of other races. From now on, they couldn't transform for the time being. A bright moon hung high in the sky, its gentle silver splendor illuminating everything. However, this area was filled with killing intent. It's the last fight. The demonic cauldron is only 2.5 kilometers away. The big black yak said in human language. He climbed up a high hill and made up his mind to kill his way over. Yellow cattle was now shining with a golden luster. He had turned into a golden-colored calf. He opened a wine jar and began to drink to his heart's content, igniting his blood. He was about to make his final dash and fight with everything he had. Ouyang Feng slanted his eyes and stared ahead. He was also prepared to kill his way over. Kill! Yellow cattle leaped up and turned into a golden bolt of lightning. He crossed the high hill and swooped forward. He wanted to cross the last few kilometers and approach the 3-legged demonic cauldron. Boom! 9 flood dragons appeared in the void. They were all thousands of meters long and were silver in color. They emitted a glaring radiance. They were energy bodies and could almost kill golden body level experts. They suddenly collided with the cauldron. This was a test of life and death. To Yellow Cattle and the others, it wasn't just killing them across a realm. This was simply a dead end. Moo! The big black yak roared angrily. He turned into a black light and soared into the sky as he charged forward. Grandpa Ouyang is here. Ouyang Feng also let out a long howl. He spat out a mouthful of saliva and leaped forward. It was impossible for them to clash head-on with the 9 silver energy flood dragons. They tried their best to evade, but in the end, violent explosions came from the sky. The three of them were being chased continuously. The path ahead had been cut off. The 9 flood dragons soared through the sky. At the same time, large black ants appeared on the ground one after another. All of them were as big as mammoths. They were hellish ant puppet generals. Their bodies emitted a terrifying metallic sound when they collided with the rocks on the ground. Moreover, they all soared into the sky and frantically surrounded the three of them, following which meteorites streaked across the horizon like rain. They were incomparably concentrated and smashed toward the three of them. Boom! The ground exploded and red magma boiled. Flying swords, spears, and other weapons surged out and attacked the three of them intensely. This place had become a danger zone. The three of them had brought many secret treasures. That was because Chu Feng had once annihilated more than 9,000 evolvers in the Outer Realm on Eternal Island. He had left behind too many weapons, armor, and secret treasures that piled up like a mountain. Now, they threw them out with no regard for their lives and did their utmost to block. However, their weapons were shattered and their armor was rotten. They were still heavily injured. Old Black, Ouyang Feng cried out in alarm. Just now, the Black Yak had blocked a hellish ant's attack for him. His forelimbs were almost torn off, and he was dripping with blood. Bang! The Black Yak roared and suddenly leaped into the sky. He helped Yellow Cattle block another attack from the energy flood dragon's tail. Many of the bones in his body cracked and broke, and his body was deformed. Old Black, Yellow Cattle's eyes were red. Both he and Ouyang Feng knew that the Black Yak felt that his cultivation was inferior to theirs. He wanted to use this kind of method to help them block those fatal attacks and let them suffer less injuries. Old Black, we don't want you to die in our place. We still have to fight our way into the Yang realm in the future. We still want to find a yak fairy for you. Don't give up on yourself. They roared. Jiangning, under Mount Zhijin, in the small world in the depths of the Earth's core. Chu Feng clenched his teeth and said, I'll stake it all. I'll exterminate that group of Jun Tuo lambs in the Outer Realm. He had decided that he would sprinkle pollen from the armament refinement sacred tree on the copper coffin and let Yao Yao's grandfather come into being. He would exterminate that group of arrogant people in the Outer Realm. In the depths of Mount Eternal, the Black Yak's mouth was full of bloody foam. He was on the verge of death and was dragged back by Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng to hide on a high hill. Just now, the Black Yak had blocked several terrifying attacks for the two of them. In the end, his body was severely deformed and dozens of bones were broken. Innocuous divine physique's blood medicine. Yellow Cattle and Ouyang Feng roared and poured the medicine into the Black Yak's mouth. Old Black, hold on. After a long time, the Black Yak's body crackled. He had once again returned from the gates of death. He stood up and said, Don't worry, I won't die until I reach the demonic cauldron. He stretched out a large hoof and was about to attack the 9-headed flood dragon again. However, he suddenly stopped and said, These attacks seem to have some pattern. Huh. Yellow Cattle was startled when he heard this. Ouyang Feng was also startled and carefully recalled. In the end, the three of them were shaken and said, It seems like a breathing technique. That's right. The follow-up part of the demon race's highest breathing technique is hidden in those attacks just now. That's the rhythm of breathing. The three of them were overjoyed and started to analyze it. In the end, they attacked fiercely again. For hours later, the three of them were heavily injured and on the verge of death. However, they had broken through this hurdle and dragged their weary bodies to the rubble forest. There was a palace here, primal chaos chi, and a 3-legged demonic cauldron. Kill the group of Jun Tuo lambs in the Outer Realm. The Black Yak, Ouyang Feng, and Yellow Cattle roared. Each of them grabbed one of the cauldron's legs. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.